Okay, good evening, everyone. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, thank you.
I hear you.
Good evening. We can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening from wherever you're joining us from. Thank you for the patience, right? Just waiting a few minutes to allow as many more people join this meeting. All right, today we're not going to delay any further than we need to or we should. And that's because we have quite a number of things to cover up. I did leave a message on the groups, right? But so if you didn't get that message for today's class, you'll be needing a number of things. And these are things that you can quickly, just maybe grab if it's close to you. They are very important for today's meeting for you to, follow the discussion and all of that. So you're going to need a notebook, right? Preferably a physical notebook and a pen. If you can double task on your mobile device without any kind of lag and you can follow through, that's also good. That will work. Another important thing that I requested that you have here today is the curriculum you're working on, right? Either it's your curriculum, the lesson plans that you are working on for this term, right? It will be very, very useful. It will come in handy very soon, right? So that you can, while I'm giving my presentation and using some of the topics that I came up with, you can also cross-check that with what you have, right? And see how to work around it. So that's very important, right? If you don't have it, now is the best time to quickly get it, right? So maybe in another minute or two, I believe you should maybe have it with you, right? And lastly, is to keep an open mind, right? Remember that PBL, STEM, and its skills, right, are maybe things that you are not yet, exactly familiar with or conversant with, right? So you need to keep an open mind, right? Creative approach, um, and very useful, very beneficial. Having said that, let me go ahead and present my screen, just so that everyone can see me, can see what it is I am referring to or talking about. Now, if you were in the last class, right? Not only if you're in the last class, if you stayed put to like up until like the very end, I had a conversation with one of us where she had a few concerns, and I asked her to reach out to me with the topics she's teaching and all of that. So I also took some time to sort of do a little digging myself and grab some topics from GSS2, right? And when we get to that section, that session, I would be using that also to double up, right, for the PBL planner um, training, right? So we're starting today off just about where we stopped in the last class. So in that last class, we had looked at the curriculum that we made, right? We looked at the science pillar. We didn't do so much as exploring the technological pillar. We ran out of time, right? So just right after that, the plan was to show you what a PBL planner is. So now that you've seen the curriculum, how do you plan with the curriculum? All right. And so that's what I'll be taking very quickly, right? Very quickly. And then immediately after that, we'll get right into actual, creation of, the PBL plan, right? We'll go into the actual creation of the PBL plan, right? So we're going to do that in two ways. The first is you can create your PBL plan based on the curriculum that we've given to you. You can integrate it where it sort of matches the topics you are teaching. But if you also want to go freehand, right? If you want to go freehand, you can also do that, right? You can also do that. So let's just get into it. If you can see my screen, just give me a thumbs up in the comment section. Just leave a thumbs up in the comment section. You can see the screen I'm presenting to you now. All right, thank you. So I'll just go ahead, go straight into it now. Okay, so if you've never heard the term before, a PBL planner is basically a strategic tool, right? It's a tool that you can use that helps you as an educator, right? Bearing in mind that a typical PBL, project may include other subjects, right? Not just would it include other subjects, it would also draw from those subjects some topics. It could be one topic, it could be two topics, it could be three topics, right? So you need an efficient way to manage all of these topics, right? You need a one place, one place that every of these things can live in, so that any teacher anywhere can sort of use that document to track the progress of the project at hand, right? You can know, okay, what is being taught, what are the success criteria being taught, who is teaching what, and all of that. What's the summary of the project? What's it going to look like at the end of the day? What's our public product and all of that? So it's basically that strategic tool. It is nothing other than that. Now, a similitude of the PBL planner is what you would call maybe a lesson plan, right? You would agree with me as teachers that a well-written lesson plan shouldn't be a lesson plan that only you can teach. If you are the only person that can teach with that lesson plan that you have written, then just know that that lesson plan is not good enough, right? Any teacher should be able to pick up your lesson plan, right? At least any knowledgeable teacher, in that field, even if not in that field, right? It should provide as, a sort of smooth sail for any teacher to simply pick up, look at how you've planned that lesson, and just follow that lesson one after the other and deliver an exceptional um, lesson. Um, the other aspect of the PBL planner is that it ensures that all the essential components are addressed, right? Remember that in class 1, we looked at the 7 essential components, right? We talked about a challenging question. It has to be authentic. There has to be a path for reflection, and all of that. So your student choice and all of that, all of those things have to reflect, right, in whatever PBL project, whatever STEM PBL project you've decided to carry out. So that's really just about what a PBL planner is. Now, these are the main things you'll find in a PBL planner, right? You'll find things like the project title, right? The project title is usually the big idea, right? It has the big idea. Maybe I think you can even split it into even the driving question part, right? But really the big idea. The big idea is just you being creative with the naming, right? You can be as creative as possible, right? If you remember one of the videos we watched, one of their big ideas was tiny houses, right? The big idea is supposed to just capture an overview of what your project is about, right? The next very important part will be your driving question, right? The driving question, what is driving that project, right? What question, uh, brought about or brings about that big idea, right, that you are working on, right? It's a question that powers every other aspect of what you are doing. I mean, you can, whatever step you found yourself, you can go back and look at that big idea and that driving question. That driving question should be able to inform you or remotivate you, reignite you at some point. I can see that someone is raising their hands. Please, if you can just write that question down in a notepad that is close to you, please write it down. We'll take the question. I remember that some of the inputs that we got from the last class was that let's sort of find a way to push the questions to a particular session so that it allows us to make as much progress as we can, right? So inside of that PBL planner also, you're going to have your lesson objectives, Now, if it's just one subject, right? If it's just one subject, your lesson objectives would be the topics in that subject for which you are carrying out, your project-based learning, right? It may so happen that all of the topics that you are taking in that term, if you found a way to sort of perfectly match all of them together, then, right? But if it's just 2 topics or 3 topics, or even if it's just one topic, right? The objectives that you have, your targets that you have, is what forms the lesson objectives that will be in your PBL planner, right? In a scenario where you have more than 2 subjects, right, that makes up the project-based learning block that you are carrying out, then inside of the topics in subject 1 and the topics in subject 2, they have to bring out their lesson objectives and then have it in that, that planner, the document. Like I said, that makes more sense than when we call it a strategic, document. Anyone can pick it up just like your lesson notes, know what is being taught, the objectives of, and carry out the PBL plan without much effort, right? Timelines and milestones have to also be captured, right? You have to capture the timeline, the milestone, sort of like the project summary. Okay, in week 1, week 2, week 3, what are the things that we want to be achieving or we should have achieved in week 1? In week 2, what are the things that we should have achieved in week 2? Right? What are the details of what is going to happen in the first 3 weeks, first 4 weeks, as the case may be, or however you feel or deem fit, right? That's sort of has to be captured in that planner, right, as the timeline and milestone, right? And then very importantly, I've merged both together, the public product and the reflection, right? The reflection method and, how you went about the reflection. Particularly also in that part, you want to factor in maybe the challenges that you encountered, or how you solve the challenge, how you solve the problem, and so on and so forth. Excuse me, I had a long day today, so it's quite dry. So that sort of is everything, a summary of everything that is captured in the PBL planner. So now we'll go to the next step now. Now you know what the PBL planner is. You know some of the things that are captured in that planner, right? And I'm going to show you an example planner, right? And I'm taking this out from one of the planners that I have used personally, right? So I'm going to show you an example planner. We'll go through it, right? We'll go through it, and then hopefully by the time we are done with it, we should still have, quite enough time to then actually start with our own planner. So we're going to start building a planner, right? A PBL planner. Now for today's session, I'm going to attempt to build a PBL planner with the subjects that was mentioned in the previous class. I think the person who spoke said she was teaching agri, basic science, and mathematics, right? So I've taken the liberty, the leisure to.
Yes, you're right.
Pardon me.
I said you are right. Good evening. I was the one who asked that question that day.
All right. So good evening, ma. So I took the liberty to sort of go through the NETC, that's the curriculum body, right? And I went through to pick out some topics from GSS2. I saw a number of classes, but I just picked at random, right? So, and I hope that this will help you see how, you can use a PBL plan, how you can plan, whether with what you have already or you want to use our curriculum, and for whatever subject area you are teaching, right? Whether it's even in government, history, and all of that. Okay, so let me show you what that planner looks like. So if you accommodate me, I don't even think I need to stop presenting. I think I just need to change what I am presenting. So just allow me find that page where I have the planner, and then I'll share that page right with you.
Anna, I open the now.
Just a second. Just give me a few more seconds. I'm trying to open up the page. Okay, so in case you also want to join me on the document, the link to the document is bit.ly. I think I should have it on this other page. Maybe let me quickly, I think it should be on the next page. All right, so it's bit.ly/net factory STEM PBL planner, right? If you use the link on your screen now, it should take you to the, to the PBL planner that I would be presenting, right? If you want to walk through through it with me, just stay on the screen. I'm just going to switch what I'm presenting now, and then you also find the same planner on the screen. So where is that? Okay, so I believe this is it. Yes. All right, so I believe this is it. Okay. Please confirm that you can see the screen I'm presenting. Now, when I say the screen I'm presenting, I'm referring to the PBL planner, right?
Yes, yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. All right, great.
Yes,
So I'll
we can see it.
just, thank you so much. So I'll zoom in just so that we can, see it better. Again, I normally advise, I think someone's mic is unmuted. Please confirm. Again, I'll normally advise that it's always best for you to rotate your screen, right? It gives you more screen estate to work with, and you get a better experience. But if you keep your phone on the, portrait mode, you may not, you may have to be moving left and right or may not see the entire thing being presented. Okay, so the big idea for this particular project was the national impact of technology, right? The national impact of technology, right? And for this particular project, it was a one subject project, right? And we're looking at the national impact of technology, particularly, we're looking at it from the lens of collaborating safely online, right? Collaborating safely online, right? And the question that drove this project, right, for us, for myself and the students, one of the questions that, was a driving force for this project was the student had to ask themselves that what is my contribution to national internet safety, right? It's an easy thing. I mean, you may have attended meetings, online meetings, training on, internet safety. Schools are clamoring, stay safe online, teach your students, your kids, give them a digital identity and help them stay safe online and all of that. But beyond all of the information, right? We were for the students and myself, we're looking at, so what is my contribution, right, to the economy, right, to the nation, Nigeria? What is my contribution to the national internet safety? Internet safety is a big deal, right? It's a big deal. And maybe if you are in the rural community, for example, you may not appreciate this as much, right? Maybe because of lack of access to maybe the internet or devices to access the internet and all of that. But if you are in a more urbanized settings, right, you would know that already, that this is already a big deal. And so that was what myself and the kids were looking at as our driving question. That was what was driving the impact, the big idea, which was the national impact of technology, right? The entire duration of this particular project was for 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks, but it so happened that at that particular time, it was a 1 hour class period, right? Twice a week, right? And that's how come you have 6 weeks for 12 hours, right? 6 weeks for 12 hours. If you are, merging many or different subjects, right? You have to factor in how many periods do these people have and how many minutes, and then you can capture that to say, okay, this is supposed to last for maybe 36 hours or 26 hours. And you know that inside that 26, 36, 24, whatever number it is, you have factored in, how many hours each subject will take out of that entire thing. Out of the entire time, right? The subject was ICT, and the teacher was, of course, myself. And this was for a year 7 class. Year 7 class is what you call the GSS 1 class, right? In the Nigerian setting, right? In the Nigerian setting. Now, the subject area that I thought was necessary to have done a good PBL project for this particular big idea and driving question were things like the English language and arts, right? Art and design, and writing. And that's because at some point the kids will be doing some of this, right? Now, in your own case, right? So when we are done with this sample, when I transition to actually working on a PBL idea, subject areas that I would be including would be subject areas like Greek or mathematics, right? So if mathematics is if mathematics is the core subject behind the PBL, then the subject areas will be basic science. The other subject areas I mean now will be basic science and agriculture. And if agriculture is the underlying subject, then the other subject areas that will be included will now be basic science and mathematics. I don't know if that makes any sense, right? So if you are teaching mathematics, for example, or you are teaching government, for example, and so we gave examples of government in the last class, right? And you saw how technology and mathematics were infused. So the subject or course would be government, right? And then the other subject areas you are including would then be mathematics and computer studies or computer studies. And then that takes us to the particular part where you are familiar with to a large extent, which is the key knowledge and understanding, right? This is where you want to factor in the objectives, right? The objectives from the different subjects that makes up your PBL planner. Let me slow down a bit, right? Just to be sure that we are following. I hope I'm not rushing this. Are you following? Is this making sense?
Yes, we are following God.
All right, thank you.
We are following.
Okay, someone is saying, okay, so someone has put the link up. Thank you so much.
Yes, we are following.
All right, thank you so much. So I just thought to slow down there. Okay, so let's jump back right into it. Let's jump back right into it. All right, so this is the part, the key knowledge and understanding is the part where you are very familiar with, right? So here you want to have the objectives of the, what do you call it now? The subject or the topics that you have chosen, right? Now you notice something striking here. I have ASOL or other standards. Now that's the school, where this particular PBL was done. So there are some schools that have their own standards, right? And some schools will mandate that you find a way to infuse the school standards to other standards like the national standards, like what the Nigerian curriculum specifies that every child should know, right? Some schools may infuse their own here and there, right, depending on the topic. Ideally, maybe for not all topics, but some topics very rampant when it comes to science, right? Particularly other science or computing. If you are in a school that is science oriented or computer oriented, so this is where you want to have that. Now, so take for example the subject and the topics that I used here, right? The first class, these are the objectives for the first class, the lesson objectives for the first class. Right? The student was supposed to justify the importance of a secure and memorable password, right? Not only are they going to justify the importance of a secure and memorable password, they're also going to create a memorable and secure password for an account on the school network or an existing personal internet service, right? They are coming in and they already have emails, right? They want to either justify whatever password they are using. Is it good? Is it secure? Is it memorable? If they are coming into GSS1 newly and they don't have emails or don't know anything about emails, you may want to consider, creating one for them at the end of that first week, right? Depending on how many hours you have. Like I said, this was a 2 hours block, twice, 2 periods a week. So there was enough time to get all of this done, right? And then lastly, was to remember the rules of the computing lab. Now, this is also tied closely to Bloom's taxonomy, right? Evaluate, create, and remember. I started from, the remember part, and then we build up, right? Remember the rules of, the computing lab. Some of them may have computer labs from the schools they are coming from in primary 6 or they've seen, right? So let's talk about the rules. It's a new school. What are the rules? What should you do? What are you not supposed to do in the computing lab and all of that? And then you move on there to talking about justifying why do you need, a secure password and all of that. And then lastly, you get them to actually create one, right? To create one that is secure and one that they would remember, right? And in the lesson 2, right, we then decided, or what we would then be talking about, what we talked about is then, introducing learners to communicating respectfully online, examine personal documents and common application, recognize a respectful email, construct an effective email, and send it to the correct recipient, right? And all of these, we took one step at a time. So this is really just about where you are going to have, all of your lesson objectives, right? Whether it's for one of the subjects and maybe one of the topic or two of the topics that makes up your PBL, or for 2 or 3 subjects and maybe one or more topics that factor into the PBL project that you are carrying out. Now, one of the things that will help you is that it makes sense to, outline all of these objectives in the order of relevance, right? In the order of relevance, what do the student need to know first, right? If you have 2 subjects, right, then I would think that one of them would be a very important prerequisite to the other. So maybe that subject and the topics and the target should come first before the other subjects and, the topics and targets, right? Just so that it is easy for anyone to, read through one step at a time, right? In order of, increasing complexity. All right, so when you are done with that, another thing that comes easy are the vocabularies. Every teacher is, you are used to this. What vocabularies do you want the student to be using by the end of the class, right? What do you want them to be saying? What words do you want them not to use anymore and begin to use the newer vocabularies and all of that? So these 2 areas should come easy: the key knowledge and understanding, what you want them to understand, and then the vocabularies. Now, the success skills or habit of mind, right, is maybe new, right, but it's not exactly new, right? Hear me out. Now, this is why I say it's not exactly new. Whenever you are teaching, right, for any topic and any subject, aside from your lesson objectives, you should ideally also be looking at some skills, 21st century skills that you want to be tying your lesson to, right? What are the skills that you consider most critical for this particular topic? Now, this is not about the lesson objectives, right? This is different from the objectives. These are the skills that you want them to know, right? Now, there are several skills, right? I just like, for one, I like to stick with the 21st century skills, because truly, if you do an in-depth, review of the 21st century skills, you agree with me that it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon, right? Sadly, you may have heard this, it may be a cliche. Sadly, in the 21st century skills, there is no such thing as mathematics, right? The skill your children will need is not mathematics, right? Neither is it English, right? Don't come for me for that, right? I didn't say it. I didn't put up the 21st century skills, right? But that's not the skill that they will need. As beautiful as those subjects, are, right? And I tell this to my students every now and then, and I think every teacher should also, tell them, irrespective of the subject, it's not a subject bias, right? The skills that they will need goes beyond mathematics, right? What you need is not mathematics. What you need is critical thinking, right? The 1+1 that we are teaching you, and all of the graphs and all of the things we are teaching you, the angles, and all of the things, the fraction. And that's why, for me, I love word problems, right? They teach you to think critically. That's what you will need. You're not going to need, the English. What you need is communication, because as good as your English can be, if you don't know how to communicate an idea, then you're as good as the person who doesn't even know how to speak English, right? So the success skills and habits of mind that you want to capture for, at the end of this PBL, right? It can be a factorization of what teacher A from his subject has and what teacher B from her subject has, including what I have, and you put all of them together, right? You may find that there may be coherence in what myself and the next two teachers or next three teachers have and for the topics that they want to teach, right? So for this particular one, the success skills were independent and critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, and you'll see why very soon, right? When I go to the project summary and guided activities, you'll see why, these success skills are important, right? Why, these success skills were very key to whatever it is we're doing. Now, let me take a quick pause, and I just want to quickly reverse just one step backward. Remember that I said earlier that it makes more sense for you to arrange your lesson objectives for the different subjects, or if it's a single subject, right? Arrange them in such a way that it's a build-up. Also, you would see the reason why when I get to entry events and entry events, key events, and all of this, lesson hook and all of that, you will see why, it also makes sense to arrange them in, increasing order of, complexity. So let's look at the project, summary, right? The project summary and guided, activity, right? So ideally, inside of this project summary is supposed to be like a quick detail of what your entire project is going to be about. Try as much as possible to capture, if you can, capture what your student's role be. Sorry, let me just capture what your student's role would be, right? Capture what problems, right, would you possibly encounter, right? How you plan to, overcome those problems as the case may be. So let's look at what the project summary for this particular lesson was. For this particular PBL was, right? Now, students would first take a stand, right? They would first take a stand for the importance of internet safety. Now, they will carry out mini surveys, collect data, and determine, make inference, conclusion from the data that they collected, right? They will take a stand, right? Is internet safety important? Should we be talking about internet safety, right? Now, the answer to that question goes beyond myself, right? And now, so they go on to maybe creating a mini survey. Now, how do you create a mini survey? Your mini survey can be as little as a Google form like we did, right? A Google form, right? They can come up with those questionnaires, right? It could be 5 questions, 10 questions, 3 questions, depending on the class level and, their reasoning, right? As a teacher, you can even help out with some questions. You can ask them to pre-fill other questions as the case may be, right? Now, you see why I started by saying they have to justify the importance of a secure and memorable password, right? It helps them even understand why they have to, because when they've carried out that survey, right? And, they can now take a stance and say, okay, if internet safety is a big deal and we need to focus on internet safety, then my password isn't too secure. Or why should I be bothered about even having a secure password and a password that you can remember, right? Now, when you create such Google Forms, because of, when you consider resource allocation and all of that, maybe don't even think of maybe paper questionnaires. I mean, if they can do paper questionnaires at the back of their notebook, at the middle of their notebook, if they can spare a page, depending on your school policy, some schools don't allow, particularly if it's a school branded notebook, they don't allow you tear pages from it, right? Depending on your school policy, your consideration for people who would fill that mini survey could be higher classes. Could take you to the teachers in the staff room during break. They could take you to their parents at home, friends. It could be an entire week or 2 weeks, and they collect all of those, feedback. Now, if they are using Google Form already tabulates all of, any response that comes in. It will help you tabulate it in a nice way. And so infographics, you can immediately see the answer you are looking for. You can make quick decisions. And now, if you have a Google Forms, you can ask, it should start from the children's parents first. If they are working in groups, then they can all come together and create one Google Form, right? Or depending on the number of groups you have, maybe 2 groups or 3 groups, right? Let each group come up with questions, right? Because they are trying to justify the importance of internet safety. And then they give to their parents. Their parents can share it on their WhatsApp, page, right? My child is working on this, right? Just take a minute or 2 to help us fill this form. It's just 3 questions. It's just 4 questions. It's just 5 questions, right? They can do that, right? They can even go as far as, taking you to church, to whatever, gathering, and have people fill out that form, right? The goal of that form isn't necessarily in the multitude. If you have the multitude fill your form, then perfect, lovely, right? But if you get as many, it is just to show them that people out there may have another opinion, and they may have what I call maybe a converging opinion that is opposed to yours. They may think that, oh, internet safety is not really a big deal, right? And you have 10 people who are telling you it's not a big deal. Meanwhile, in your class, okay, pardon me, they think internet safety is not a big deal. And you may have, from your response, you may have 10 people who are saying it's a big deal. And now you can have a discussion with them to see that really, then it is. If 10 people that don't know themselves are saying this, then it should be, something for you to, consider. And sometimes when they carry out these surveys, the answer that they will get may not even converge to what you are expecting to be the answer, right? Depending on the people they share the survey with, they may come up and say, while your student may be thinking that, oh, it's a big deal, this should be a breeze for us. Let's just share. We already know what the answer will be. And then you begin to have responses from people that are saying it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. Does that mean the project has failed? No, the project has not failed, right? Now, in fact, as a matter of fact, I think that it's better when you have that kind of crowd, because now the justification for your PBL now makes more sense, because now you have people that you can even invite to your presentation when you are done, or to come and see your product. You have people for which you can now make a product, right, to tell them how important it is, right, that you should be paying attention to internet safety and your password and things like that. I think I've overflogged this particular one. Remember, we are still on project summary and guided activities. So that's one of the things that they want to do. And if you were paying attention, you must have picked out the activities that they are doing now. Surveys, mini surveys, collecting data, as or use whatever means that you find that your students can use. Now, collaborative groups will then, plan a presentation to be delivered in class on cyberbullying, right? Collaborative groups, that's if you're having more than one group in class, will use this pre-run, right? And preparation for their national campaign against cyber bullying, right? Now, what this means is now you've collected, you've done your mini survey, right? Now, if you go back to the lesson objectives, in case you are wondering how we moved from number 1 to number 2, right? There's a part in the lesson objective that starts talking about cyberbullying, plan an effective presentation to give to an audience on cyberbullying and all of that. So that's where this particular part of the project comes in. So they now have a stance on the importance of internet safety. They looked at it through the lens of your safety when it comes to your password, right? How memorable is your password? How secure is your password? Then another aspect of internet safety is cyberbullying. How do you communicate online? Right? And how do you do that effectively? Right? Now that they are making all of those progress, now they make a presentation in-house, right? And they are arguing for cyberbullying, right? They are delivering a presentation on cyberbullying, right? Now, depending on which group makes the best presentation, this can now be the group that would, represent you for your final product, right? In this case, one of the final product that we wanted was, a presentation to a public, to an audience, right, on the importance of cyberbullying. Is someone trying to say something? Can you still hear me and see what I'm presenting?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Please check your microphone. I'm struggling to hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I can hear you, but I'm not really following, sir.
Okay, so two things now. Because of time, what
Mr.
I
Solomon,
will do
sir.
henceforth going forward is I will try to sort of break down my explanation. Maybe I'll try to use more simpler terms. But remember that there is always this recording. It's going to be available online. It's going to be available on YouTube. So even before we share the Zoom recording, you can go to YouTube and rewatch, and you can follow at a much slower pace, right? You can follow at a much slower pace.
But, sir, before
yes,
you go
please.
on, can you still hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
What you have displayed is, what exactly is this that you have displayed? I really don't know. Is it a
Okay,
lesson?
so if you joined me earlier, right, this is similar to what you will call a lesson plan, right? But because the idea is not, it goes beyond what a lesson plan is, then you need a way to sort of capture and collect everything in one space. Now, what I mean by that is, for the different subjects and the different topics, you are going to have a lesson plan, right? But we are working on a project together across the different subjects. How do we track which lesson objectives we are meeting together, all of us together, all three subjects? How do we track which objectives we are meeting? How do we track each part or each milestone in the project so that we can get to the final product, right? And that is what brought about the idea of a PBL planner. And so I started by explaining to you that a PBL planner is a strategic document. It is a strategic document. You can take a PBL planner, and inside that PBL planner, you are going to see the lesson objectives from the different topics that makes up that PBL planner.
What three subjects are you exactly working on with this, sir?
All right. Now, for this particular one that I have on the screen this is just one subject. This is just one subject. I keep making allusions to three subjects because I feel somehow that there may be teachers amongst us that may be teaching more than one subject, or there may be teachers amongst us who, want to collaborate with other teachers this term. That's why I keep making allusions to three subjects. But a PBL plan can be 4 subjects, it can be 2 subjects, it can be 5 subjects, right? And inside of each individual subject, each of these subject teachers can, suggest one topic from what they are teaching in that term. They can suggest one topic from what they are teaching in that term. It could be 1 topic, it could be 2 topics, it could be 3 topics. Right? For the particular example I have on here, this is just for 1 subject, right? 1 subject and 6 different topics.
Okay.
I trust that it's a lot clearer now.
Please, where did you write the topics so that it will be better understood?
Okay, so the topics are what I have captured in, let me show it to you. Let me just scroll up a bit. The topics are what I have captured under the lesson objectives here, right? Logging on, creating a memorable password, And when you come to the other lesson objectives, we are talking about communicating respectfully. And then there are 3 lesson objectives under that. Making positive contribution to their online community and all of that. If you ask me, I am one of the proponents of this thinking ideology. Our thinking ideology is that topics should be exciting, should be engaging, right? Gone are the days where you have traditional topics like force, right? You have maybe a science teacher, a typical science teacher can come to the board and write force, right? That's the topic, right? But you can make that topic a lot more engaging, right? You can come up with beautiful, exciting name alternatives, right? So even though we know it's force you are talking about, how about try to name it something else? Your topic can even be a question. What makes things move, right? What makes things move, or what makes things crumble? And I've seen people even do push or pull, right, as their topics. Right, so I just thought to chip that in.
Sir, before you go on, I would like to also comment on what you just said.
All right, please go ahead.
As innovative as what you just said is, it might not, I don't want to sound like I'm being pessimistic, but it might not really work in the traditional school setting we have today, where for every subject, every teacher is expected to give the scheme of work to the students. You know, that's what we do now. We give the scheme of work before we commence the term or at the beginning of the term. So we get to follow this scheme week by week. So if I have given a scheme of work endorsed by the state government to the students, like you mentioned force now, and then we get to week 5 where we want to talk about force. And instead of going ahead to write force on the board, I then go ahead to write what makes things move. I mean, those can actually be part of our, that question, what makes things move, can we rather have it as perhaps our opening, like to open the topic rather than calling it the topic? I don't know if you get my point here. Rather than changing the topic from first, that question, can't we have something else, or like introducing the topic by asking students such question? Because sometimes, for example, now second and third term exam is being set from the ministry. It's not teachers that set it. I'm referring to public schools now. So I really appreciate these innovations, but I am looking at how they can really work.
Okay, so in your setting for the public school, right, where you have those strict factors put in place, there are just about 2 things that I'm thinking about now that you can do, right? Maybe let me start from the suggestion you made, right? So even though you are writing force on the board, you can start with maybe a subtitle, right? Which will now be either the question that you have, right? I know that there are no strict, what's it called, as to the subtitles. Another thing that you can consider doing is putting it into brackets, right? Putting it into brackets, right? At the end of the day, what you are really trying to do, the essence of what you are trying to do is just to sort of get the students more excited, right? Sort of to get the student more excited, to ease the tension in the environment, right? Something that they can relate with.
That's what she's
right?
talking about.
Now, let me quickly give this example. Okay, so now, because I just remembered this, I think it was captured here somewhere. Now, at the point where we wanted to start this particular PBL block, right? All right, so one of the entry events that we started with, right, when we wanted to have this PBL block was apparently at that time, there was an issue. I don't know if some of us may remember, it's been some years back now, where the account of Bill Gates and Elon Musk was hacked. I think that was the time where cryptocurrencies were beginning to become a thing in the Nigerian economy and all of that. Someone hacked their Twitter account and posted a message, pretending to be them, right? And the message was like, it went something like, this is my wallet, right? Imagine seeing a tweet from a verified Elon Musk account saying, this is my wallet. If you credit me 1,000, Bitcoin, I'm going to double it and send you 2,000 Bitcoin, right? And then, a lot of unsuspecting people, did that, right? Only to find out that it wasn't really from, the guy, the real person. Now, we could have started that, what's the name, in any other way, right? Like 1,001 ways. But just to ease the tension and get the student in the know, to create an environment that they are familiar with. You'll be amazed that even at home, these people have heard that news, right? They've heard the news. If they've not heard the news, then it's a wonderful opportunity for them to even, get to know what is going on. Right? So I picked that entry event from what do you call it now? From the news, something that that they were already used to. I could have just gone by saying, okay, today we are going to be learning about passwords, right? Maybe let me, I'll also open this where I have sort of like the lesson plan for, the other classes. Okay, I think that's still loading. I'll just love to show you one of the things. So this was the class where we did the computer rules and all of that, some of the things that were needed in the computer room, your do's and don'ts and all of that. So this is a more fleshed out lesson plan, right? But all I have captured in, so if I wanted to put a topic to this now, maybe someone will call this the rules of the computer room or rules of using the computer, right? That would have been a more strict way to have, put this as a topic. But just find the idea behind what the message I'm trying to pass along is. Find something easy, something much more fun, right? Something that the students can better relate with, right? If you want to, you can put it that maybe in bracket as a subtitle. If you have to also still, appeal to external authorities or external bodies. Even if you still have to use the force, put the topic as force, but maybe during the class, help them with something that they can relate with better. I hope that was helpful.
Really helpful.
All right, thank you so much. So entry events, right? Okay, so now that you have your project summary, I want us to quickly wrap up with this sample and then start working on ours. So the entry events that you would have would be what you call maybe your hook or starters, depending on what you are doing. Now, there are many ways that you can go about an entry event to your PPL project, right? There are many ways you can go about it. Now, in my own scenario, this was how I, began, got them excited. Now, all of them, after hearing that a whole Bill Gates or a whole Elon Musk, got their account hacked, it was an exciting, and everyone was wondering, so how much did the hacker make? How much did this one make? Were they broke? And there were a whole lot of questions, that was coming up. And then you're asking student questions like, okay, so if you were Bill Gates, what would you do better, or how would you feel? Or if you were the hacker, would you be happy with what you have done and all of that? And you find students come up with some funny, some silly question, answers to that. And then followed by the survey, right? To know if internet safety is important. Now, this is again, if you go back to the project summary, you can already hear why, the project summary sort of summarizes everything that will happen, right? The survey, the mini survey that they would, carry out, the intergroup competition, presenting on cyberbullying, and finally planning their, live online, campaign. An entry event, that another kind of entry event that you can consider can be having your students, right? After discussing or agreeing on what PBL plan you want to carry out, you can have them face the entire school, maybe during the circle time or the assembly, what you maybe call the assembly ground in some schools, right? Have them have a presentation. Okay, maybe one person or two groups if you have divided them by that time. Okay, we are students from year 3, GSS 3A, and this is what we are working on. And we hope that by the end of the term, we should have gotten answers to this and this, and all of that. If you foresee that you are going to need support from the students, either filling maybe a mini survey, you can let them know and all of that. And that already is building up the anticipation of what they are doing, or what they are going to be doing in that particular term. Okay, so let me brief through products, making products public, and the resources needed, right? Let me quickly brief through that. I'll do that quickly. Now, while you are carrying out your project, right, already from everything I've mentioned now, you can already differentiate two kinds of products that will immediately begin to show forth. Does it have to be two for every PBL project? I don't see a hard rule that says it has to be two, right? But I believe that from experience, I can tell you from experience that particularly if the PBL project is one that is already well thought out, you would, without stress, see two kinds of products. You will see students' individual products, and you will also see the team product. Now, look at an example of a student's individual product. Imagine if it's your student that is coming up, if it's the individual student that is coming up with their own questionnaires or their own surveys, right? That's a product, right? If they are going to use Google Forms and all of that, which they should even know how to use, right? If they are going to use, and thankfully enough, if they don't know how to use it and you have tangible amount of them who even have access to mobile devices, there are videos, simple videos. It's a very simple thing. I think that every secondary school student, even starting from GS1, should be able to, make a simple Google Forms of maybe 2 or 3 questions, or even if just one question. They should be able to, right? Some of the issues that would prevent them from being able to, maybe at that point, they don't even have an email, which isn't exactly the best for them at that age, right? They should have an email, right? Because face the fact, almost everyone here, you had to submit your CV to that school via some kind of email, right? So you can't take email away from people now in today's world, in 21st century. Gone are the days where you write your CV or your application on, pen and paper. Now you have to type it, you have to send an email, you have to do all of it. So every student should have an email, right? And an email that they can remember, right? And then for the team are going to plan their presentation, right? Now, when they are done and you have, for this particular project now, when we find out who came up with the best cyberbullying presentation, remember that that's the team that will then represent the entire class when they are presenting to the external or the public, right? They are going to come up with banners themselves, right? They are going to come up with banners themselves, right? And you can come up with banners with simple tools like Canvas. It doesn't have to be a high-end tech banner, right? They can come up with banners with Canva. Some of them may know how to use PowerPoint. They can come up with that design and share that design themselves, right? And you already see that you're already having products that the students own themselves, that they came up with themselves, and products that they came up with as a group, as a team. Right? At the end of the day, you have several things to showcase that the student can beat their chest to say, okay, this was my contribution, this is what I did, and what, what have you. And making products public. So how would you make your product public? So students will share their plans, flyers, jingles on either social media pages, maybe their teacher's social media pages, parents' social media pages, if they have one, right? They can do word of mouth invitation for the jingles. They can speak to their friends, maybe other schools, depending on the time that you fix your final presentation, and all of that, right? It would be nice if you can record it, record the events. Maybe as a teacher, you can record them and all of that, and all of these things, because if it's a presentation and it needs to be recorded, if it's powerful enough, it is something that you can share with the general, public, right? To either sensitize them, inform them of what is happening, and what have you. Okay, so, and then just about at the end, you have things like the resources you need, right? You need on-site people, either for the physical distribution of flyers and all of that. You may need equipment like laptops, internet, logistics, if or where necessary, right? And all of that. And then reflection methods. Remember, reflection is also part of the gold PBL standards, right? There's all class discussion, journal, learning log, gallery work. Now, how does the gallery work come into this scene, right? The gallery work is where everyone, maybe after their examination or during revision class, take maybe 5-10 minutes. You told them, already ahead of time, right? Bring everything you've made. Those that made posters, those that designed posters, either those that couldn't meet up with time or met up with time, their presentation, have that work and let them reflect for the whole term. This is what we have been doing. Could we have done this better, right? Are there more efficient ways that we could have used? And what have you. Let me stop. Now, the extra notes, for me, I sort of compiled all of my notes, right? Flyers and everything that will be needed. I compiled it into a Google Drive, right? So all I have here is the link. But if you do digital, lesson planning, right? For some of the topics, if there are notes that you want the student to have, you can either put it here. If you to make the entire work too bulky, you can separate it maybe on another document and maybe just make reference to it and things like that. This is just really left to the teachers. And so if you notice here, I had flyers, banners that the students could work on and things like that. So I'll stop here, right? I think this is good enough time. I'll allow questions while we then prepare to, create a new PBL plan. And we're going to create that plan based on the, subject that was mentioned earlier. And I'll just come up with some things. I have something scheduled, but I'll come up with, a whole lot. And we'll take suggestions from people also to see how we can come up with, and it helps you get, a better feel. Remember that one of the criteria for this, for certification is also that everyone will be required to come up with a PBL plan. So this part is very, very, very important. I have a few hands up. Okay, Dr. Tubonsun, it's good to have you again, sir. Great evening to you, sir. Please, you can go ahead and unmute your mic. And then after that,
good evening,
Jim.
Solomon. Thank you for your presentation. And good evening, everyone. I want to ask a question on this PBL planner. The question goes, is PBL planner a material or a tool?
It's actually more of a tool, right? It's a tool that you can use, right? It's a tool that you can use that both guides the entire project and the project's delivery, helps everyone stay on track, right? Particularly when you have multiple teachers or multiple topics.
Okay.
It helps everyone stay on track.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, for that, based on what you said that you want to welcome suggestion, I suggest that there must be a kind of evaluation before a tool can be used. You have to evaluate it. Now, when you are using evaluation, there are evaluation models, which we have ADIB model, Trasler model, and Bates model that we can use to evaluate tools before we know whether this tool is effective for teaching and learning in the classroom. I think you understand what I'm saying, which you have not discussed. So I want you to shed more light on this. If we can use any evaluation models to evaluate the tools that we are going to use as a PBL planner to bring about effective teaching and learning in the classroom setting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So, not to sort of bring about any confusion. Now, this planner that we are referring to, right? This planner doesn't replace your lesson notes, right? What this planner is supposed to do is supposed to just provide a guide for every aspect that you want to cover. Remember that the PBL has a gold standard, everything that must factor in, right? So if you have 2 or 3 teachers, 2 or 3 subjects, or 2 or 3 topics, how do you know immediately offhand that this is what my PBL big idea is, or this is what my driving question is, or this is what the project that we want to work on, this is what it will look like, right? And these are the targets that I want to cover, right, in this entire PBL block, right? So you ideally have all of these things, right? But the only issue is that you may not have them in one location, right? You may not have them in one place. You may have them, chemistry teacher may have his, physics teacher may have his, and all of that. So, and if you want to now start going from one place to collect, that makes the entire process quite tedious, right? So how do we solve that? All that the PBL planner is then doing for you is giving you a place where you can factor in all of these things from the different people, whether it's the chemistry teacher, physics teacher, geography teacher, right? Since all of you are coming together to come up with a project. So I have a topic that, thankfully coincides with your own topic, right? And thankfully coincides with our own topic. And we can come together and, come up with a project, right, for the kids, right? So that planner that, we are going to be using is going to take the ideas from my topic, your topic, and our topic, and, have them outlined. Now, all 3 of us, whenever we are going to the class, right, particularly in the week where you know that you are teaching that topic that is, for the PBL, you can even use that PBL planner in class, right? Because in the PBL plan, you already have the target, the lesson objectives. And if you want to go to the class also, doubled with your lesson notes, right? Just like I showed you that even in that PBL plan that I showed you, if you at the bottom, the lesson notes and everything, so I do digital, right? I do all my lesson planning and everything digitally, right? So all I just need to do is just to click on that link and my lesson notes, just pops up and it guides me. I know that at the end of that lesson, I would have taught the targets, right? And that target happens to be the same thing that I said I was going to teach on the planner. So that planner is just like a guide that you can pull out of your pocket just to keep track of, of things, right? If you submit a PBL planner to maybe an academic coordinator or director, for example,
sorry, that means the way you are addressing it now, that means is a lesson, is a form of lesson plan.
Yes, so I said it's similar. I said it's similar to a lesson plan. It is what every teacher would be able to relate with as a lesson plan, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
If it's going to be more than one teacher now, more than one subject. Now, if I take a lesson plan from the geography teacher or the agri teacher, right? The lesson plan for week 2 for the agri teacher would only cover, week 2, as it has to do with the PBL project. It's not going to contain the lesson plan and the objective from the math teacher. So it's just going to be just for the geography teacher.
For a subject alone.
Pardon me, I didn't. You said something. I didn't hear that.
I said is for a subject. The plan will be mainly
for a subject. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
For a subject.
Okay. That means if I will agree with you that it's more or less a lesson plan. That means the lesson plan must entails any model, any evaluative model. Are you getting what I'm saying? Take for instance, AD model. AD model, you analyze the student.
Yeah.
Why you did design, then development, implementation, and evaluation. Although later review may come, whether it can be reviewed to be useful for the current situation in the classroom. So
sorry, can you say that again, sir? Sorry, I was distracted. I was trying to read a comment. Please forgive me. Can you say that again?
What I'm saying is that since you said that it's more or less lesson plan, so that means for every lesson plan, a lesson plan must have any evaluative model. Are you getting what I'm saying? So take for instance AD model. AD model we have letters like A, double D.
Someone's mic is unmuted. Please help us.
All right. Like A, double D, I-E, then later review, which is R. So the A there is to analyze the learner in terms of age, background, etc. Then the design, followed by development. After development, then we have implementation. After implementation, we have evaluation. So later, review may come in, which lesson plans must have. I think you understand what I'm saying. So
yes, I do.
I expected you to discuss this to guide the teacher that will teach PB in the classroom.
Oh, okay. So what I've shown on the board now, is just a one part, right? So in addition to the PBL planner, just like you are rightly said, now someone is already thinking again. So where does evaluation? How do I evaluate the kids? Where does it come in all of this? Right, particularly when you have individual, product, team product, and all of this and all of that, right? But I will definitely go through. all of that. I'll definitely go through all of that, right? I've just decided to focus on what I considered as, most critical because of the time constraints, right? But if you pay attention to the presentation and just with a little bit of time, you'll definitely see how that factors in. I have a comment here that says, from what I understand, we have the subject lesson plan. We have the subject lesson plan, and the PBL planner is like, okay, we have the subject lesson plan, and the PBL planner is like extracurricular lesson plan that contains several subjects. Well, if it helps you to get a better grasp of it, I mean, all fine and good, but I don't like to see it as an extra curricular document, right? I don't like to see it as an extracurricular document, right? I like to see it as one document, and in that one document, I have, everything, that I need to teach effectively for that term or for that week or for that period of 2 weeks, as the case may be. Till when we start building the real PBL. Yes, so that's what we're about to get into now. That's what we're about to get into now. So let me stop presenting this, and then I'll present an empty document. Where is it now? I'll present an empty document. Okay, so I have it on this same page now. Okay, please confirm for me that you can see the empty PBL page that I'm presenting.
I can.
We can see it.
The empty one, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you so much.
It has product design overview.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's quickly run through it. Okay, so now remember, what I am using here now is going to be from three subject areas, right? Which is mathematics and agriculture and science, right? Basic science. And one of our questions is, so she teaches those three areas, and so she's asking that how do I make do with those three? How do I come up with a PBL planner? So for GS2, I think I found that some topics that you'll be covering, for example, in Agric is farm structures and building, crop propagation and cultural practices, agricultural practices, animal feeds and feeding, animal pest and disease control, fishery, forest and forest uses. Well, that's as much as I just, picked out. And then in mathematics, you are maybe covering things like transaction in homes and offices, right? Transaction in home and offices. And again, this goes back to, remember how I was saying that sometimes you can use something that is more exciting. Transaction in home and offices would definitely cover things like, simple addition, subtraction, or even simple interest and things like that. But see how they've done this creatively, right? And this should ideally inspire more interest in students. And there are things like approximation, multiplication and division, plain figures and shapes, angles, bearing, and constructions. That's about 7 topics also for math. Now, it's not complete. Like I said, it's just a rough sketch. And then for basic science, you are probably doing things like work, energy, power, types of energy, thermal energy, and what have you. I believe that this should coincide with either what you are teaching in GS2. I don't know if it's for this term or for next term, right? But it should, be the same at large. So let me just minimize this page. Okay, now, okay, fine, great. Okay, so from all of these things that I've listed, now I'm going to paint a scenario where I am, where there are 3 different teachers teaching all of this, right? If it's just one teacher, just like she's the single teacher teaching this, perfect, right? But I'm going to just paint a scenario where there are 3 people teaching this. So the maths teacher is different from the agric teacher, which is different from the basic science teacher. Now, what you want to do is to ask them, like I said, this is what I will normally do, right? You can ask them, particularly now, this is even a lot easier if in your school you have maybe pre-term meeting with your teachers, right? It's a good place to meet with teachers, collaborate, and ask, okay, so what are you teaching the students this term? And then they give you all of those leads. So math is teaching this, basic science is teaching this, agric is teaching that. And then you can, take a step back or maybe together, you guys can think about, okay, so what project do you think we can come up with everything that you've heard me say and you have said and this other person have said, right? Now, if you pick an example, for example, crop propagation and cultural practice, right? If you pick that topic from agriculture, right? Crop propagation and cultural practice, and then mathematics is picking maybe a topic like plain figures and shapes, and then basic science is picking a topic like energy or types of energy or what have you, something that has to do with energy, right? It's easy to, come up with a project around all of these topics that I've mentioned, right? You can think about projects like, for example, sustainable farming, right? And sustainable farming or efficient farming, right? Or sustainable farming and efficient use or efficient energy use in sustainable farming, right? And are we still together? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
we are
yes,
together. We are
Yes,
together.
we are together. We are with
Okay,
you.
okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right. So I'm just giving like a background, right? I'm giving like a background so that we are all on, the same page. Sorry, my page. So I'm giving like a background so that we're all together. So you can do sustainable farming and efficient energy use in sustainable farming and, things like that. And the idea or the objective behind this, right? Behind this what's the name, is to actually look at farming practices. Right? Let's look at farming practices, right? How are crops being propagated, particularly presently in Nigeria? How is it being propagated? Can we improve on it, right? And can we come up with renewable energy solutions, particularly when it comes to irrigation of farmlands, right? And so that's just what comes to mind. And so the students are using knowledge that they will learn from that topic in agric. They'll use knowledge of maybe plain figures and shapes in math, right? And then knowledge of types of energy in science to achieve this project. So a big idea, like I said, this is just me coming up with something, right? It doesn't have to be the same when it comes to yourself, right? You can tweak this as much as you want. So the big idea that I think that I'm coming up with is maybe sustainable farming and the integration of renewable energy, right? Sustainable farming and the integration of renewable energy. So I can go ahead and fill out my big idea. Sustainable farming and integration of renewable energy, right? Depending on the duration, so let's just say, let's give or take, I'll just go with 6 weeks, or maybe I'll just go with 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I don't know, depending on the duration, right? Let's just say 3 weeks. I believe at that level, it may be for 5 minutes per class, 45 or 1 hour, whichever you want to. So for those 3 subjects, let's even say 1 hour. Let's just do a round in there. For the 3 subjects, that will be 3 hours. For 3 weeks, that will be 12 hours. That's totally left to you to adjust. Now, the driving question for this is, how can we, so the students are asking themselves, how can we design a sustainable farm, right? How can we design a sustainable farm that maximizes crop yield? Maximizes crop yield using efficient energy and space. Or you can keep it as using efficient energy. So at this point, I'm going to need it to be as interactive as it can get. Or what do you possibly think can be a question that can drive students at this point, right? I'm thinking, how can we, or how can I design a sustainable farm, right? How can I design a sustainable farm that maximizes crop yield, using efficient energy solutions? That's what I'm thinking. If you have something other than that, maybe let me also look at the section. Yes,
hello,
please.
hello, Mr. Solomon.
Yes,
Good evening,
please.
sir. Good evening to all the leaders on the call. Thank you very much, sir, for your passion and dedication to this training. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow, I have so much to say, but I'm just going to find a way to be quick about it because of our time. Let me start with this big idea. Now, what I've just seen you done now is that the teacher was the one who came up with this big idea, maybe in collaboration with the other teachers. Now, is it possible?
Ideally, it should be in collaboration with the students, right?
That's exactly what I'm driving at, because I know that when we did all of the components of PBL,
student choice.
We agreed that it was going to be student-led, and I know for sure if this big idea comes from the students, it's going to be in a way that it's relevant to their everyday life, because you can only come up with an idea of what you are exposed to. And that will be giving us an opportunity to do what I call community-based learning. The student to have learning that is tailored to happenings in their surroundings, in their environment. And that will get them to be more involved. So I would prefer an alternative way to ensure that the students are the one who will come up with this big idea, okay? And the teacher will just going to facilitate. So this driving question now, since they are the one that came up with the big idea, and this is something that concerns them, maybe a problem in their community, maybe it's about flooding, maybe it's about violence or conflict or whatever it is, it's going to help them more, to connect and be able to follow through. Because the video you played for us, I think the tiny house, I saw in that video that what actually led to that project was the housing challenge that was experienced in that community. And that really got the students, the pupils interested. So I would prefer that we are looking in that regard, so that the students from the beginning are the drivers of these ideas. I don't know if I've been able to communicate that point, sir.
Yes, I understand what you are saying, and you are completely right, right? Remember that in those classes, we said that the student choice is very, very key, right? And in addition to that, I had to balance it up by saying that in some cases, particularly if you are introducing project-based learning newly to students, right? It may be tricky, particularly students who haven't yet mastered how to identify problems, right? Or how to see connections between subject matters or topics. Right? It may be a bit challenging. And so a wise thing for any teacher to do is to go prepared, right? So now this that I'm showing to you now is just simulating a scenario on how you would go about it. So ideally, when you meet with your teachers, right? When you meet with your teachers, you can agree and say, okay, these are the topics I'm teaching, these are the topics I'm teaching, these are the topics. You can isolate all of this, right? All of these topics and present it, right? And present it. Now, if you teach in a school like mine, right, where before the term begins, right, particularly not for GSS1 student, but from GSS2, GSS3, SS1, and so on and so forth, you can share with the student, because they have opportunity to have blended learning. So they have an online platform, right, where you share with the topics and say, okay, take a look at the topics that we have isolated out for the term, right? And then you see students immediately begin to see connections and say, okay, we can do this, we can do this, we can do that, right? And, you know, it cuts like 50% off the job of the teacher. And so when the student, you know, make that decision, when the student makes that decision, it's then left for the teachers to then say, okay, let's see how far. So all the teacher is doing is just providing the guide, right? Because once they make decision on what they want to do, once they say this is what I want to do and they have their driving question already in your mind, you already know that, okay, so these are the kind of products we are, you know, we are expecting. These are the kind of products we are looking at and what have you. So you are correct to say student voice is very, 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 very important, right? So imagine if students were here, right? I won't be the one to just show them the full-fledged PBL plan or even show it to them at all, right? It is them first thinking about, okay, we are doing crop production in science. What does the knowledge of crop production, what does that bring to the table? What am I going to be learning in crop production? And hence the reason why they tell schools nowadays to give your students, in fact, some schools say scheme of work, but it actually goes beyond scheme of work. I know that in my own school and in all of the schools, right, that I consult for, it is mandatory that you not only give them the scheme of work, but you also give them the lesson targets, the lesson objectives, right, for every topic you are teaching, right? Both the student needs to know what they will be learning beforehand, and also it helps the parent to also double to, you know, guide the kids to know, okay, this is what is being covered and this is what, you know. So you can share those things. Ideally, you should even share it before the term begins, right? And when you share all of those things, if you have more experienced students that are already, you know, conversant with PBL, that they can already pick out all of these things, right? When they pick it out, depending on how lively you make the class, you can even make it, okay, so let's have a poll, right? Anyone who thinks we should go for this and solve this problem for this term or for this half term, raise your hand or signify, and then whichever team wins is what you go with. So I'm only doing this, right? I'm doing this just to help you understand how you would fill all of these columns and what are the details that goes into all of the different columns. I hope that helps. Mr. Jimo Rashid still has his hand up. Miss Khadija
Hello?
Musa, you can please go ahead and, yes, please.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I discovered that the issue of this PBL, it will give a teacher a kind of guiding.
Pardon me, ma, if you can hear me.
Hello?
I hear you.
Hello?
Can you say that again? Okay, I think, yeah, you can please, can you go again? I think something
Okay,
happened to my audio.
this plan now, this PML planning.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
You know, when a teacher did not train very well on this one, you know, this thing, it comprises of so many things. Because teacher must go on training program so that they can get it right. Now, the 2 or 3 topics that we want to match together now, someone must be at least to affirm and to get it right before you can put it on the plan. You know, when someone is taking Greek, someone is taking basic science, and you want to combine these 3 subjects together in order to teach the student, most of the topic in that each subject self, some people cannot solve it very well. Some people cannot handle it very well with their students, not to talk of matching it together. You know, a teacher, before we can actualize this thing now, teacher himself or herself must know what she's doing. She must be perfectly she must perfectly okay with that topic before bringing it to the board for them. By the time someone introduces it to the students so that they will be able to get someone right. Without that, I don't think that this thing can work, because we are using as a lesson note now to guide our lesson plan in the class. Now, this as a lesson plan, we at least went for 2 weeks training on it before we can be able to get it. Still, some of teachers, they didn't get it right now, up to now. Not to talk of matching 2 or 3 subjects together for a topic to teach the students. So I don't know, maybe I'm communicating. So if we are passing through this training now, as you are training us now, before it can be actualized in our school, doesn't mean we go and teach other teachers, or how do we go about it? So this thing is giving me another thought.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
we
hear you,
can hear
sir.
you, Solomon.
Okay, thank you so
We
much.
can
I
hear
think
you.
at some point my audio device was.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so I hear you, Ma. I hear
Yes, sir.
you, and I hear your concerns, right?
Yes, sir.
But so maybe not a but. However, this is what I think about the concern that you raised. Truly, some teachers, we have some teachers today who still struggle with basic lesson planning, right? That's not disputed, right? There are teachers who still struggle with basic lesson planning.
Okay.
But as opposed to seeing PBL as, like you made allusions to that, it's almost as though you are, combining 3 different subjects. It is maybe not really in that light, right? And this is why I say so. Now, at the beginning of the term, every teacher is supposed to have their scheme and have their, scheme, their plans. Yeah, they have their curriculum, their scheme, and then they have their plans, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps where the issue is coming from is because we still have schools that burden teachers with 2 or 3 subjects, right? And that's why when I was making this analogy, I was creating this scenario, I decided to play as 3 different people, each one of them with their own subject. So I imagine a scenario where there are 3 different people, right? Not one person with 3 different subjects, right? So I imagine a scenario where person 1, maths teacher, has done his job, has his scheme of work, has his lesson plan out from week 1 all the way to week 10. Agricultural science teacher has her own lesson or his own lesson planned out from 1 all the way to the end. Same thing for basic science, right? So this PBL planner that we are referring to is not that they are doing another work. No, all they are doing is from the lesson plan that you have created from week 1 all the way to the end, give me the parts. It could be the topic that suits the PBL idea, may even be in your own week 5. That you are planning to teach shapes in week 5, or you are planning to teach shapes in week 8, right? But we know that the idea, the knowledge from shapes would be helpful for the project that we were able to arrive at with the students, or guiding the students, or maybe the student didn't come up with it, and then you just come to their rescue and you give them one and say, okay, how about let's think in this light? Is this possible? Right? So they are only giving you and saying that, okay, in week 5, I'm going to teach shapes. So we're going to write shapes down and then give me the target. What are the targets that you are covering? What are the lesson targets, lesson objectives that you are covering? Okay, so you need to learn how to come up with the correct measurement of shape, how to measure area and perimeter on consider many shapes, and then you write all of those targets down. And then the science teacher is giving you that, okay, in week 2, I'm going to start with energy. Or in week 8, I'm going to start with energy, renewable sources. Okay, give me those targets. So you have 2 targets, right, from these 2 teachers. And of course, our Greek also adds his or her own, right? Now, all of these targets doesn't affect in any way the other weeks and the other topics that they need to teach, right? Okay. It is only for the purpose of planning and delivering the PBL block effectively. That's the only reason why we are saying, okay, let's write it down in one place. Let's write it down in one place. So you bring yours, I'll write it down. You bring yours, I'll write it down. You bring yours, I'll write it down. But individually, they still go about teaching the other weeks the way they have planned it, right? The only difference is if I assume the position of the math teacher now, right? In week 5, I am coming to class and saying, okay, we want to look at measurements and shapes. Now, we are looking at measurements and shapes in the light of the project that you have at hand. This term, we plan to create a sustainable farm, right? That's our plan. Now, how do we measure each plot for the different groups that we have in this class? Take, for example, you have 3 groups. Now, we only have a finite amount of land that this school admin has, told us, okay, you can have this piece of land, right? So how do we go out there to actually measure it and be sure that you have a square, you have a square, you have a square, and one person's land is not bigger than the other, right? That's the aspect I'm coming in from. So I'm teaching them first, what's area, what's perimeter, right? How much crop, if I give you this area of land, how much crop would you be able to possibly grow in there? So I'm teaching them area and perimeter, right? But I am closely relating it and tying it to, for the purpose of the project that they are doing at hand, right? Now, it may so happen that that topic may even extend maybe 1 week or 2 weeks. And so you can even continue. It can be a follow-up, right? But all of these things, and the same thing applies to the science teacher. When they get to the week or the point where they are teaching energy, right? They can teach it also for the purpose of the projects that they have at hand. And same thing applies for the Greek teacher. So at the end of the day, what that planner, what that document is for, is just to guide us on, okay, so which topic is supposed to come first that will give them prior knowledge about renewable energies, that will give them prior knowledge about crop propagation. I want to believe that in that sketch that I did, the concept of crop propagation and all of that should even come first, right? We need to know, okay, so what are the different cultures of planting? What are the crops you can plant and all of those things before we now start, okay, so now we know all of the things we can plant and the cultures of planting and the techniques of planting. So now we move on to, okay, now it's time to plant. So how do we divide this land that has been given to us? How do we demarcate it to say, okay, this is the portion for you, this is what you are working on, right? Then we move on to energy. And then we can then start looking at, okay, so how do we water this plant? We can be coming there every morning to water it, to pour water, but are they more efficient ways that you can use to water? Can we think about renewable energy sources to, to think about irrigation, right? So all of those things, you won't find all of these things in the individual teacher's lesson plan for week 5. Or for the entire term. No, the details about the project and all of the milestones will be found only in that planner. If you want to make allusions to it in your lesson plan, all fine and good. But the PBL planner is what is now the mother document that is guiding everything that is happening. So if I want to know which week you are teaching, take, for example, I want to introduce a 4th person, say, for example, the academic coordinator. The academic coordinator comes in and is trying to say, okay, you mentioned that your class is going to carry out a project. So where are we with that project? Right? At that point, you don't even need to go and call all 3 teachers to be together, to come together. You don't need to go and start dragging them for whatever class to, enter a meeting. No, we can know where we are by simply pulling out the PDF planner and saying, okay, so this is our driving question. We have done this and this so far. This is where we are at the moment. Right? The project is spelled out. The summary is spelled out. Every single details that is needed is already spelled out in there. Right? And so it becomes a whole lot easy to follow through. I don't know if that was a bit more enlightening. I have so many hands that are up now. Maybe let's take from Mr. Salami Yusuf. But please, if you can just help us summarize.
Sorry, that I'm talking without giving permission. So mine is not a question, actually. I want to react to what the last speaker said, the question she asked. Although you've said a bit of like 70% of what I would have said, actually, because that's when I raised my hand. Now, Mama, hold on. Now, I want us to embrace the power of AI. I'm a tech tutor, quite all right. And there are some times that I have to teach some field whereby I don't really have experience about it. And what helped me, like the last program I just did with women, content creation, digital content creation. That was the topic of what we treated for women in order to improve their visibility on social media platform. And when I got to a stage whereby I have to teach them video editing. I did not have the knowledge of video editing because I have people who work with me that I give it to. You understand? So I did not have that knowledge. So what I did was I went to my WhatsApp AI and I asked it to give me an outline, a simple outline, because I did not want something bogus. I asked it to point me to simple outline on how I can teach video editing from basics. So when I asked it to give me that simple outline, it was able to guide me to, and I know that, okay, I know the keyword I will put inside YouTube to watch, to be able to reteach that particular video editing, because I'm not a video editor. I don't even edit videos. But at the end of the day, I was able to teach that class. I was able to teach that class, and I did it like I was so happy because apart from teaching it, the more I teach the class, the better I became at it for myself. You understand? So now for those teachers that they are still struggling with a particular subject or a particular topic, what they can do is they can make use of AI, ask AI to simplify the outline for them so that they will know the angle that they want to study from, and just read, because now everybody needs to upskill. The more you teach, the better you get at it. Now when it comes to that, she talking about people that handle like 4 5 subjects and all, and even from what you said, they can also ask AI to give them project suggestion that covers 3 different subjects. At the end of the day, to give them, because before this class, I actually made up my mind that I did not want to study, because I want my knowledge to come from here first before I now start spreading, before I start researching out. But I got to a stage that I was tempted to, I just went to AI and I asked it. That was before our Wednesday class. I asked it to give me outline of what I can do with STEM. And for half of what you said was what AI gave me, was what the AI gave me. The science, the way you outlined that, the science part, the science aspect was exactly what it gave me. So I want us to embrace the power of AI when it comes to learning and teaching. I find it very, very helpful as a tech tutor. Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
That's all, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very, very, very enlightening. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I lend all support to what you've said. Truly, AI can make your job a whole lot easier, right? It's just that today is not the day for AI in education, right? Just truly, like you said, if you have 3 subjects that you've been saddled with to teach, I mean, you can churn out interesting, exciting, powerful lesson plans, lesson materials in less than 20 minutes, 30 minutes max, right? Hopefully, one of these other days, hopefully we'll come back and make something in that line, and it would be nice to see everyone also attend to just upscale. I don't know how many questions we can take. Is after 8,
Yeah.
right? Should have ended.
Hello,
Yes,
sir.
yes, please.
Mr. Salami, thank you. I'll make it brief, just as you've requested. So my contribution I want to speak in regards to what other participants. I found what other speakers before me have said very meaningful, and it's also resonated with me. My own addition is to one of those earlier participants that spoke about how PBL will actually work in schools where presently they find it difficult to work conveniently with the old ones, the old versions, the old styles, the old learning styles we use in school. I think my own observation about this is it depends on, I think on Wednesday when we spoke, I referred when I spoke that it depends on the school's philosophy. I don't know if you can still recollect, Mr. Solomon. I said something like this, like that. So the school's philosophy first. What is the school's vision and mission again? That again aside. Then I don't know if the woman that spoke about the efficiency of how the PBL will suit that school. I don't know if she's a teacher or a school owner. So in that regard, we'll look at if she's a school owner, it's one thing. If she's an educator in that school, is another thing. Now, we are talking about sustainable education. What is the school's plan, future plan for that same school? Coming from the school's vision and mission. Now, from the view of the educator or the teacher in that school, does his own mission, professional vision and mission, does it resonate with the school where he or she has found himself or herself? That's another thing. So how does it project? What is our projection? Does she think educator or tutoring presently is restricted to the 4 walls of the classroom? Is there a way you can extend your tentacles as an educator to make the best of what 21st century skills has to offer us? So I also look at from the moment you shared the link to your presentation, your PBL, how to implement it, I was like, hey, Mr. Solomon, you are going to kill some people that don't have some other skills, as in design, different designs, on what designs actually entails. What design is Mr. Solomon introducing us to? When I see the first column in your link, I saw big idea. I said, Mr. Solomon has come again. Only those who know what big idea means will understand Mr. Solomon better. So I will implore other participants on this platform. You have more to read about. You have more, a lot. You can't even sit back and take what Mr. Solomon has said and think you can work with a PBL alone in the school you want to work, you want to implement it. So I think I should just hold it this way to accommodate others. There are more I still want to say. Let me just hold it that way. But it's a big thing Mr. Solomon has actually shared with us. and I so much appreciate you, sir. And also the hosts, those who are hosting us and put this together. Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So allow me quickly ask. I know that it's past 8, right? We're supposed to end 8. We have a
Good
few
evening,
things
Mr.
to
Solomon.
do. So is everyone here willing? Right, the
Hello,
attendance
sir.
has
Can
been
you hear me?
shared. Is everyone here willing to still spend a few more minutes, maybe up until 8:30? I mean,
Yes.
I
Yes.
really need to need the idea.
all right.
Yeah.
Sir, please, I want to ask, sir. Sorry, sir,
What
please,
time?
I want to ask. Are we meeting tomorrow?
No.
Are we
The
meeting
Saturday we are meeting is not tomorrow, right? The Saturday will be announced. It's not tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow is Saturday.
Okay. Let me just take at random, right? I'll just
Sorry,
take at
sir.
random just one. Okay,
Sorry,
that's the
sir.
person. Speak. That's the last one we'll take, so that we can quickly get back and make use of the time that we have.
I'm not asking. I don't want to ask a question. I just want to know the one of the Saturday that we'll be meeting for start training.
It will be communicated. It's a Saturday. We know it's a Saturday, but it will be communicated.
Okay. No problem.
So just pay attention to the chat section, to the WhatsApp, Telegram platform. Once it is communicated, it will be pinned, so it will be difficult to miss.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Solomon.
Good evening, sir.
This is Balogun. Thank you very much. You are really doing a wonderful job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, sir. Your mic is muted now. So if you can please
Sorry?
unmute.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. What happened is that as wonderful as this is, my history is very related to what other participants have said also. You know, especially the last speaker that was talking about the philosophy of the school where you work and you are not the owner of the school. You know, there are some schools that they refer to as grade A schools. Then we have grade B, or probably we have grade C as well. You know, these grade B, C school, majority of them, they are very, very dogmatic as far as the system they are using is concerned. And they think in fact, when you try to introduce some things, they think you are just trying to be lazy, or probably they believe the only thing is that just go to class, give you like 5-6 periods in a day, just cover the syllabus and all those stuff. That's how it ends. So in a situation like that, and you know, this kind of system is highly discouraging. I'm a passionate teacher that I want to do everything humanly possible to help my students. But in a situation whereby, you know, the atmosphere is kind of discouraging. I don't know, because look at as beautiful as this is. There's a lot of things I've gained from what you have been saying that I think I can do something. But I look at the system, you know, and you know, even attitude is there. Even attitude. So you can begin to even split that into different things. So when I look at all these things, to be very frank with you, I don't know. Maybe you have an advice on how to go about this thing, because you know, I'm talking from experience. There are some things we are trying to introduce and all those things, but you know, they are always discouraging. And that's just it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I sincerely appreciate your contribution. But let me speak to this quickly, and let me also thank everyone who is patient enough. Once I'm done with this, won't take any other question. I'll just quickly jump right back into the panel. So let me speak to what you said quickly. I understand your position, right? And I understand because I've made several transitions the last 2 decades, right? I've been in teaching for like more than 10 years now. And so I understand what the hassle that comes with, finding a way for things to be done better, more innovative, bringing something good to the table, and then, having the hassle with people who are comfortable with the status quo. One of the things that I do for myself is there's no one solution, right? So this is just a suggestion. This is something you can try. If you can find a way to pioneer, to run, whether in complete obscurity of the management, or you have someone you've spoken to it about, if you can find a way to show them an example where it has worked, it helps your argument play more favorably in the ears of the admin. I know that. So I remember so there was a project there was a school I once, so even before I started consulting, then I was still full-time in a school. And in that particular school, they were used to this traditional grading of paper. I mean, you are done with exams or tests, you have to mark, those traditional methods of grading and all of that. And that didn't sit well with me anymore, right? For example, also, another example I'll share with you is, for some reason, I don't mark with red pen. As a matter of fact, I don't think I have a red pen, right? And why don't I have a red pen, and why don't I mark with a red pen? And it's simply because of a research that I stumbled upon, right? Where some educationists carried out a particular research, and they found out that somehow that color, that red pen that we put on children's books, gets them more tensed. It doesn't sit, it affects them in, one psychological way or the other, right? And that was enough for me to start kicking against traditional, marking of red pen. I mean, there are people that will argue, right? And so when I brought that to the school, or some schools that I still, tell that to, they meet, with a defensive position with, many, many reasons, right? Today is not the day for that, but you are free to look it up and the likes, right? So I stick with blue, black. I did extensively at some point even use pencil, right? So if you are concerned that the student will change it, or the student will erase it or change it, then the fault is really not necessarily the student. It lies a whole lot with the school, with the teachers, with the admin, right? What kind of children are you raising? Are you raising children that would want to do that at the slightest what's the name, opportunity they get, right? So it begs to question that, right? But today is not the day for that. So
maybe we can make use of the green biro.
Yes. I mean, go with all other colors, right? If you must use red pen, it doesn't mean you shouldn't use red pen. You can use red pen, right?
Yes,
but for grading purposes, I just, because of research and backup, from educationists out there, I've just decided to avoid it altogether.
Yes.
So today is not the day for that, right? So there is, what I did then was, because I had mentioned that, why are we still, because for me, particularly if you are not only a teacher, particularly if you are not even teaching just one subject, you have tons of papers to mark. And if it's a large school, you are in deep soup, right? And there's no guarantee that you will mark 50, 80 papers effectively, right? Particularly when you have to do with GSS 1A, GSS 2B, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, right? If we want to be honest, right? At some point, either because of fatigue, the standards will drop, right? And so I started thinking of, how do we work around this, right? The school was bent on still marking with paper, and what did I do? So I came up with a test, right? Online test online testing, where the students could take the objective session, right? I could have done objective and theory all online, right? But because of my understanding of the management I was working with, I just decided to, okay, let's even test, let's slowly, easily, without, you know, forcefully imposing, right? I hadn't spent too much of years in that particular school, right? I was still new. So whatever suggestion I make, particularly any that sort of counters or even threatens the culture, the system that we're already grounded, wouldn't necessarily meet a good ground, particularly if you don't have an open-minded, administration. So I just decided to let me just pioneer this. It was done secretly, and then the outcome. I remember that particular half-term, midterm test, right? I was done, so everyone was shocked that how is it done, and how does he have all of his scripts marked so soon, and his results were out. Right, all I was waiting for is just the right comment for the student. Right, and that was how I just gradually phased it in. Right, so much so that up until today, as we speak, or in fact, not just for my subject, for all subjects, right? For all subjects, what they do now is all objective papers are done online. Right? It takes away a huge burden from the necks of teachers. So imagine if you are taking 2 subjects and you're also doubling as maybe the academic coordinator for your department, or you have some other roles. And if you are teaching in the private sector, where almost every private school, they have lots of school activities. Today they are doing this day, another time they are doing another day, celebrating this, and it can be very tedious for teachers. And so that was my own solution, right? So it is worth thinking about, right? It is worth thinking about. And the funny thing, when we say we are teaching students how to solve problems, right? You may not be able to do that effectively if you yourself are not a good problem solvers. And these are opportunities where you yourself have to bring your own problem solving skills to bear, right? So in summary, what I'm saying is, if you have an example that you can pioneer to show people and say, okay, I did this, even if I did it for 2 or 3 weeks, this is the outcome. I believe that if I extend this can be the outcome. And you can begin to suggest it. Don't expect that in such schools, everything is going to happen at once, right? It may be too far an hope, or your hope to, to say that everything happens once. No, but if you can gradually phase it in, that can be a possible strategy that you can use. I would love that for as many people that have suggestions also, if you can type it here in the comment section, perhaps if the person who has that question can leave his number, you can get suggestions. It's a community at the end of the day. This is one of the reasons why we say that the community is meant for discussion. Like when you put up situations like this, there are people that can lend their voice, lend their own suggestion and say, okay, I've had issues like this before. This is how we solved it, and things like that.
Okay.
And see how that works. So let me quickly head back in the very few minutes that is remaining to the PBL planner. So the driving question, please confirm that you can now see the screen I am presenting.
We are seeing it.
Not yet.
I can see.
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, so the driving question, so is there anyone who can think of a driving question, right? Who can give a suggestion for a question that would drive those 3 topics, right? Remember, one of the topics is crop propagation, right? In science, we have energy, renewable energy, and in mathematics, we have area and perimeter. Is there anyone who has any suggestions for us? Right? Questions like how can, what can,
how can we make farming sustainable?
Thank you. So how can we make farming
sustainable?
Thank you, sir. right?
Sir?
If this was a more open, we had more time, it could have been up for debate between the teachers involved and say, okay, is this the best we can do? Can the student come up with a better question? And things like that. If you're having this conversation with the student now, because the question is already starting with how, I'm already thinking in the line of some of the products that you may want to come up with. We'll have them exploring different options, right? Different options. Can we make farming more sustainable by introducing renewable energy? Can we make farming more sustainable by some other ways and what have you? So this particular question, this particular topic is agric, agricultural science, maybe for lack of time, let me just, and then the supporting other subject areas will be mathematics and science.
And basic science,
Basic
yes.
science. Thank
Yes.
you.
Teachers,
you put the name of the teacher and the level for which this is GSS2. GSS2. Okay, great. Now, what are some of the lesson objectives you would have for crop propagation? Do you have something like that, Andy, that we can use? So I want to believe you want to introduce crop propagation and techniques, right? Introduce maybe, so I can erase this. This is just like a guide that you can use. So let's say introduce, sorry, let me just change the color of the text there. If having to type all of this into this class would take a lot of time, I'll just share with you verbally some of the things that I'm doing. So introduce crop propagation. Techniques. These techniques can include like how do you propagate? Grafting, stem cutting, seed planting. So seed planting, stem cutting. You may also have another objective that you want them to also know or describe, but I try as much as possible to also align my teaching with Bloom's taxonomy. So if I'm using, when you are introducing to them, this will only apply to the lower order thinking, like remembering and understanding, right? When they are describing also, right, that will also still be around that remembering and understanding. So ideally, I want to have objectives that are higher order, right? That has to do with crop propagation. So can they argue? Maybe you want to do argue for the best crop. Sorry, I'm doing this all free, and if we had enough time, a 30-minute, 1-hour planning session, it will definitely, the PBL will be more solid than perhaps what we will have now. Can they argue for the best propagation technique, which will even help them to decide which propagation technique they will most likely be using? So this first one will be under, let's say, remember. I'll just try to walk fast. And when they argue, argument, if I'm not wrong, should be under evaluate, right? And evaluate falls under the higher order thinking. Evaluate of thinking for, oops, I just took out everything. For the Bloom's level. So in this case, homeworks that could follow with this in this particular week that you are teaching them this, once you've introduced crop propagation to them, their homework can be to go home and find, pick one of the crop propagation, right? So next class, when we are meeting, we're having a class debate, right? You can streamline it and say, okay, out of these three, and you are saying out of these three because there's one that you particularly want to use for that project at hand. So let's streamline, let everyone come with their reasons and come and debate it out. Why do you think this method of propagation is the best? If you find a way to even relate it to your immediate community. So we want to plant in school, right? And this is what we want to plant, right? Which crop propagation do you think will work best? Right? Then have them make that presentation. That will stick to them longer than and then sorry, I just want to quickly come back. Distinguish between, okay, so sorry, I'm just saying this in the chat section. How can we observe a fertile land for crop propagation? Yes, distinguish between sexual and asexual propagation, right? All of this. Now, for the part of the distinguish, right? So just take note that when you use things like distinguish, that would still be under understanding, right? Distinguish differences and all of that. That will still be under understanding. That will still fall under the lower Bloom's taxonomy. There are ways that you can use to bump that up so that not only are they, able to distinguish, they can also think, they're also thinking high order. So there's another, how can we grow a sustainable farm in small square spaces in our houses to reduce hunger? I love that. I love that driving question, right? I love that driving question. So maybe the only adjustment I will have made to that is instead of how can we, let it be how can I, so that each individual in your classroom is taking that as a personal, drive, right? As a personal drive. Right, but I love that. Thank you so much. So, okay, distinguish is under analyze. Thank you so much. Create an extension program for local farmers on propagation methods, right? So these are some of the suggestions we have if there are different teachers involved. Or if it's just you taking those two subjects, then you may have to decide with your students which, works, best. Right, you can have these ones at the back of your mind so that if your student don't come forth, then you can now make these suggestions to them. But every step of the way, when you are choosing your driving question, allow them that free hand, right? Let them also, have the feeling of having an input in their learning. Okay, so let me just put the comments section on this end so that I'll just be keeping track of it. Okay, and then the other subjects that you would have would be mathematics, right? Where you are doing shapes and areas, and shapes and all of that. So maybe a target that you can be working around is, so they have to choose an efficient shape. Calculating, so let's say calculating, our math teachers can help out here, calculating the area and perimeter and perimeters of maybe land spaces. It will have just been area and perimeter. Under area and perimeter, you now find area and perimeter of squares, area and perimeter of rectangles, and all of that. For lack of, that would normally be maybe some of the targets, 2D shapes. Yes, please. Are you helping us out with something?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Right. Please go ahead.
We can as well determine probably the number of seeds that we are going to use to propagate a particular land.
Thank
so
you.
Using that idea.
So do we put that, would you think we put that under the max number of seed? That would. So I think there's something with
planting material.
Yeah.
Yes, it's planting materials.
Okay, that's under the agric, right?
Yes.
Planting materials. Thank you so much.
But though you are going to use mathematics to calculate that.
How much is
Yes,
farmland?
so
It can be under mathematics as well.
okay,
It's
so
mathematics we are going to use to
calculating
determine that.
the amount of seeds per square, right? Is it per square inch or per square inch or per
It
square
depends. It
centimeter?
depends.
Okay,
It
okay,
depends
so
on what you want to do. So you
okay,
can
okay, okay. So
calculate.
let's just say calculating amount of seeds, right?
Mm.
Okay. And if you want to be more, specific or explicit, you can use per square inch, per square, and whatever terminologies you want to use. Remember that they are already used to addition and subtraction and division and all of those things. So this you can, because they may be applying the knowledge that they've learned, this can be factored under application for Bloom's taxonomy. But depending on how you phrase this particular target. Now, this is not exactly the target, right? I just put a sentence there, right? Remember that a target has to be specific, has to be measurable, it has to be smart, right? But if you find a way, you can actually rephrase this target. I think it's coming to my head. You can rephrase it to be an higher order activity.
Hello, hello, Mr. Solomon.
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
What I'm saying is very simple. So
okay.
Since the first step here is that you want to calculate the area and the perimeter of the land.
Yes.
Then using that, so all you just need to know is what? The spacing on the farmland and the area that you are able to determine. Then you can calculate the amount of planting materials that you are going to use to propagate that particular land. So you just use area of farmland all over space. Then you are going to get the number of seed or any other planting material if you are using
that can go into that place.
So right? Yes, so you will be able to know the number of seed or the number of any other planting material you want to use. Let's assume you are using stem cutting as an example. So you can be able to determine the number of planting material you're going to use to what? To plant that particular space. So that's what I'm saying.
All right. Interesting. Thank you so much. All right, so someone says I will be teaching them measurement also. Yes, you can be teaching them measurement. There may be some topics that they may already have prior knowledge about, right? There may be some topics that they may already have prior knowledge about that you may want to just go back and, just regurgitate out for them, which also will be very helpful. And then vocabularies, you can go ahead and then begin to fill out all of the vocabularies that you want them to be using, such as seed planting, stem cutting, grafting, all of those wonderful, what's the name? Designing a land space on paper. That should fall under creativity, creating, right? Which can be factored in under mathematics, right? Can be factored in. That can be, if you are not going to take that during the mathematics class, you can have them do that as an assignment or an extended work, right? An extended work, right? They can come maybe during break for as many that are interested. It doesn't have to be compulsory depending on your class dynamics, but just have them send in something. So now their imagination is beginning to, okay, so design a land space on paper, right? If you had this, how would you go about it? Thank you so much. I think that was also very beautiful. And so you may have vocabularies like propagation or propagating, area, perimeter, square mile, square inch, per inch. You have all of this, what's the name? Crop propagation and all of those. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Hectares and the rest. Thank you so much. So all of those will would form your vocabularies, right? You can even have the different teachers. So the vocabularies you are focusing on this subject, just give it to me, and then you just slot them in. Again, if you are teaching all of these subjects and it's just you taking more than one subject, a quick tool you can use, again, AI. Today is not the discussion on AI, but if you do use AI, it can give you all of these wonderful vocabularies to choose from and make use of. So we go to the next one, which is, sorry, my device is, okay, so it's back. All right. So success skills and habits of mind. Success skills and habits of mind. Success skills and habits of mind. What success skills am I hoping to grow, to bring out in this particular project-based learning? One of the things I'm hoping, right, particularly if I'm going with that, how can I develop one in land space, cultivate a land space to grow food in my home? I think I saw one driving question that was like that, right? I want to create, one of the things I would drive at is creativity and innovation, right? Creativity and innovation. Well, there are some that will be constant because they will have to communicate their findings or their at the end. So communication definitely has to be part of my success skills. So I'll just make that into black. Collaboration, at some point, would they need to collaborate? I want to believe so, right? But depending on you and what you are working on, if you don't feel they need to, then critical thinking is also there, and then creativity and innovation. So those problem solving, thank you, right? Problem solving, that's a very important skill that they will definitely need if they must finish this PBL block very well. Problem solving is very important. You can't take it away from what they'll be learning, one of the skills they'll be learning, because there are several problems they'll face, right? They will go and see the land. So how do we divide it, right? There will be challenges. They may need rulers. They may need something to measure, all of those things, right? They identify the problems themselves. They will solve it themselves, right? How do I go about this, right? Okay, so another problem that you most likely have then would then be, okay, we've agreed on the method, the technique of propagation, the materials. How are we going to source the materials? Are we getting beans? Are we getting this? Okay, are we buying? Are you going to come with 2 seeds from your house? You come with 2 seeds from your house and all of that. Problem solving. Another problem they will then get to will be, how do we water? How do we keep the plants alive? Then that will then take them to start considering the energy aspect of it. So that's very, please, can we get a copy of this template for PBL? Yes. Maybe once we are done, I will send this. I don't think you have this in the, so yeah, I'll add this to it, but I can send this ahead of time. There's a folder that will be shared at the end that will contain all lesson, all presentation that I've made, everything that we've done. I remember that some people asked for people that they can follow, suggestions of accounts they can follow online and all of that. That will be included also in the entire thing. And then thank you for the person who gave that suggestion in that last class. It was in Shagamu. It was Federal Government College Shagamu, and the robot was Kiki Shagamu. What's the name? I watched the video. It was very exciting, very, very innovative thing that they did. I noticed how they even use local materials. They just use these puppets that you see in all these fashion houses, right? They took it and they turned it into their own thing, which was amazing.
I think their proprietaries or the head of the school drove that passion
exactly
for them to.
Yes. Which was nice.
I'm glad you actually went for that and make research to discover more about it.
It was lovely. What I watched was lovely. So project summary. Now, project summary, again, is supposed to contain everything, the project that we have in mind, what we want to do with the project and all of that. And this is really where, you would have to do maybe a little bit of thinking. So where do I want to start, right? And how do I want to end this, what do you call it now? How do I want to end this project, right? So depending on, so the driving question we're working with now is how can I make farming more sustainable? Sustainable farming and integration of renewable energy. So I'm thinking that can the students work on I'm thinking now, if you come up with something before myself, you can do well to share. How do we summarize? How can I put a summary to what I want the student to do? I know that the student will get a land to cultivate in. They will demarcate that land amongst their groups, right? They will demarcate that land amongst their groups. They would they will plant. I don't know what seed they will plant yet, but I'm very sure that they will plant. They will water, and then they will use an innovative approach, right? Energy efficient approach, right? Sustainable farming and integration of renewable energy. How do we integrate renewable energy in sustainable? Because and now the question is, how can I make farming sustainable? So the project is not just that they get a land, divide it, and farm on it, but how can they make it sustainable? One of the ways they can make it sustainable is think about renewable energies. Can they use a solar panel or solar powered watering system? Use of solar pumps. Thank you. Someone just, yeah, I was thinking in that line. Can we have courses site suggestion as well to expose us more to on all these teachings? Yes, definitely. Definitely. Maybe I'll be able to write that down. So use of solar pumps. Yes, there are solar pumps that you can use to get water. Now this is where it may be tricky, because now a teacher now, particularly in the rural area, who is doing this may now start thinking, how do I get a solar pump, right? Are they expensive to buy? How do I get one? So in the worst case scenario, if you don't get a solar pump, right, the best you can do, use of organic matter waste food instead of chemical fertilizers. Yes, thank you. That's also another way that you can sustain, make farming more sustainable, right? Use of organic matter, right? Waste foods, right? Now, it will interest you so I did a PBL block one time where we looked at hydroponics. And one of the issues we faced, right, was how do we buy the nutrients, right? So you plant with water, right? Because actually we were taught in primary school that plants need soil, water, and all of these other things to grow. Well, that's not true, right? It's not correct. Plants don't need soil. Okay, so someone that was distracted just heard me now. The person is looking at the camera. What is he saying? Actually, plants don't need soil. What plants need is nutrients, right? The only issue is that the nutrients are in the soil, right? Traditional nutrients are in the soil. However, right, there are nutrients in other places. So that's how come the idea and the concept of hydroponics came up, right? Plants don't need soil. It's the nutrients they need. So if you take a plant and put it inside water, and inside of that water, you keep pouring in all of the nutrients it needs, it will grow fine without any issues, right? I mean, research will even show you that it will even grow better than the one in the soil, right? Because the one in the soil has to compete for maybe things like space, then is exposed to pests and all of these things. And you have to start thinking of the best soil and how to keep the soil moist and all of these other things. But when you grow hydroponically, so much so now the world has even moved from hydroponics to aquaponics, right? This time around, they are not growing with water. They are growing plants inside of the ocean, inside of water, right? And which comes with, okay, so some of course, there are aquatic plants that grow in water. Yes, thank you. So there's the concept of hydroponics. There's also the concept of aquaponics. which also gives better, which even helps environmental biology to argue that aquaponics should be what we should be considering, right? Because in the ocean, you then create better habitat for fishes and other marine creatures thrive better and things like that. And come to think of it, if your students are fast thinking, you will realize that water covers about 60–70% of the entire Earth's surface, right? So eventually, if life thrives on Earth, human beings will exhaust all of the land, right? So when we exhaust the 30% that God has given to us, what happens to the newer people that will be born, right? So we need to start exploring the remaining vast 60%, right? And stop killing ourselves over land and using juju, quote and unquote. Sorry, let's come back. That was a quick digression. All right. So the project summary, for lack of time, I'm not going to type out everything, but it makes sense now what you are going to do. If you want to go for the water pump, if you don't have the what's the name, financial resources to go for the water pump, just like we didn't have all of the financial resources to get all of the nutrients that we really needed. What we just did, a student just came up with it. It was funny, right? But the student used Milo, right? These Milo drinks, right? Right. So we decided to test it out. Let's see. Well, the Milo has some of these nutrients that we need, right? Like iron and all of these things. It's contained inside. And we started feeding it. We started pouring it, mixing inside the water. Right? And we're amazed at the outcome, right? The plants grew quite fine, right? Maybe not as perfect as if we had used the actual, just the nutrient, because when you pour Milo, drops of Milo into it, there are other things. It sounds funny, but you'll be amazed at what students will come up with, which I thought was worth testing out. All right. So that would then form your entire project summary, right? You list out all of the things, the activities, what the project will entail, how you are going about it one after the other, so that anyone who reads to it knows that, okay, this is the project, this is where you are starting from. So then we'll get land to cultivate. If you can be specific about the square meter, the length, the perimeter of the land you were given. Your student must be rich, below as nutrients in this economy. Interesting. Well, it was that economy, right? That was like 2-3 years ago now. 2-3 years ago. Yeah, about that. So now entry events. Entry events would include things like your who can starter. So whoever is starting the class first, right? So if a Greek is going to start propagation and crop propagation and cultures in week 2, right? How are we starting this? How are we starting this entire PBL block? How are we launching it, right? There are many ways you can launch your PBL. What's the name? Maybe in week 2, the students already know what they are doing. Again, I said, you can have them discuss. You can take them to another class, assembly ground. If there are news out there, like I've used news for entry events, it gets them excited and all of that. If you have connections, your teachers can speak with people, friends. It doesn't have to be the Minister of Agriculture, right? Even someone who is a student of an Agric university, second year, third year, fourth year, well, depending. First year may not have enough knowledge, but maybe finalists, year 3 students, just talk to them if they can pop in and help you open up, launch that event for them. Right now, the entry events now this time around, that means you are picking it for that Greek subject. If it's the math teacher or the science teacher that has a connection, right, you can launch with that. If all 3 have connections, then when it's week 2, a Greek teacher launches with Minister of Agriculture who comes around. Maybe it doesn't have to be during your class period, right? It can be anytime during that week. The students gather, tells them about agriculture, whatever the presentation is about. Then science, mathematics in week 5. Also, if you have your own name to launch, wonderful. And there you get to appreciate, the the community better, right? You have teachers that you can depend on who can help you either bring their brother, sister. At the worst case scenario, the worst you can do, I tell all teachers, is to have someone, a knowledgeable person, come and pretend, right? The student don't have to know, right? It's all about the experience. The student don't have to know. Have someone who is knowledgeable in what you want, and let the person come in, right? Let the person come in as an expert teacher, right? An expert in that field, you know, and launch that event for them. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on your timing, right? If you don't have that time to spare during the week, a facilitator who is ready to give or meet participants who are ready to yes, who are ready to take. Yes, interesting. I think I get what you are saying, but there are many people like that can speak, right? Worst case scenario, if you have a laptop, put the laptop in front of the class, have the person join a Zoom meeting, talk to my students in 5 minutes. You are a student of our Greek. What are the opportunities in agriculture? What can we do? Because this is our plan. We want to cultivate a small land mass, land that has been given to us, right? Our goal is to find a solution to sustainable farming. I just talk to us. What are the things that we should have at the back of our mind? And is there opportunity for us and all of those things? It could be a 5 minutes, 10 minutes Zoom call, right? And that way you're already getting your students also to think globally, because they are not just, it's not just you. If you keep doing all of these things, you are detaching yourself as the center focus of knowledge, right? I tell my students everywhere, whenever I get the opportunity to, right? Before you even come to me with a question, right? Are there other things you have considered, right? I cannot be your center focus for knowledge, right? Because it will amaze you that I don't even know all things. I don't have all the answers. There are some questions that my students ask me, I would deliberately tell them to check, look for it on Google first, right? So when I see they're actually going to look for it on Google and they find the answer, then I'll now bring my own input, right? It's not that I don't know it or I cannot give it to them, but I just want them to cultivate that and that attitude of what if teacher is not there? What if I'm not there? I won't always be with you, right? If I get an opportunity tomorrow, God says, oh, it's time to go to the US, it's time to join the Japa community, or Harvard wants you to come and have a talk. Anything can come up. I won't always be there. Your teacher won't always be there, but it's a skill to learn how to find solutions to problems, right? It's a skill. And it will even amaze you that sometimes refer them to other teachers. The question you're asking me, I know it is science related, but go and talk to another teacher or go to another class, right? Teach them to build that community of communication and collaboration, right? Go and meet that head boy in SS2 or SS3. Ask him, let him share what he knows. When he has told you what he knows, then come and meet me. If it's not good enough, I will then refine it. But at least you have learned one thing. You can go to people and ask them for their opinion on things. Exactly. Lifelong learning and research skills, which is very, very important. And so all of those will make up your entry event. So if you're not going to use those approaches that I just mentioned for entry event, and you want to use subject-specific entry event, you can also, right? Your hook and starters, every lesson plan presently should have hook and starters, right? Even in the Nigerian curriculum, you should have a part that is supposed to hook your student, get them excited about, it could be a question, right? Get them excited about all of this. But go as far as you can for the, entry event. There are some schools that will even do a PBL launch activity, right? They pick a particular day and say, today we are launching our PBL, what's the name? They go out with banners. If their schools are close to the gates, or if it's a class during assembly, once the assembly is done, our students are going back, they go to a very visible place, they've made a banner, so they are launching their PBL, right? They are letting people know that this is our driving idea, this is what we're working on. And they are making noise, they have to be exciting, let them shout, let them scream, right? It helps them even get more into the, the feel of what they are doing, right? This is what we are doing, right? Helps them take more responsibility, right? You can video that entire, activity, keep it for future reference, right? And you'll be amazed at what comes out of it. It's 9 o'clock. I want to beg that we halt at this point. Just so can accommodate as many. Yes, so yeah, facilitator ready. Who do I carry out? How do I carry out PBL subjects? How do I carry out PBL in subjects like economics? So help me out. Help me out when you say economics. Let me take that question. And then, yes, so Mr. Smart, thank you. I caught a glimpse of when you wanted to ask a question, but that was the time where we're trying to wrap up. I caught a glimpse of it. So please stand by. You can even just stand by, right? We'll take your question. So in economics, if you can please help me out with what class you are teaching, maybe even for this term, what kind of topics are you looking at? I don't know too much about economics, but if you help me with that, I think I should be able to have 1 or 2 suggestions on things you can try out. Okay, Mr. Smart, can you please unmute your mic, sir? And let's hear you.
Okay.
If it's a question.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening. So I had wanted to say something long. So I'm following with what is going on, but there's something I wanted to add because there was a question someone said asked long behind, and it was talking about how do we evaluate? Now, the thing is that evaluation can be possible with PBL, but the thing is that the evaluation is not something that you see on the plan, or it's something that is effective in the effect of what happens to the children at the end of the program. Now, we have been doing projects before now as teachers, but what we do is that we just do a project for them and they do it and they say, this is what we made in this project. It was not structured, it was not organized like this. So what PBL does is that same project we used to do in all those assigned subjects and art subjects, do this, go and make this, go and make that, and they do presentation even in JS3. We bring PBL to it, and when we integrate it, the outcome of our evaluation is how did the group work performance of the students come out? Because at the end of it, if they are doing group work, you will see that, oh, this group did well. Look at what this group was able to do. You can see the creativity, you can see the critical thinking, you can see the collaboration. So at the end of the day, we end up scoring them still yet when we're doing that in our projects then. So now when you do administer PPL, you can still evaluate them based on that same, what is the outcome of their results after they tried all these things? What's the critical thinking? What's the collaboration? What's the effect of the result? So that's how we evaluate. You don't really need to put out that, okay, evaluation, we will do this, we will do this. But it is at the end of this project, what would this student come out with? Oh, I love this project or presentation for group A. Group B was very nice. Group C was wonderful. That is the evaluation we get. So I just wanted to add that. Then secondly, you made a suggestion of bringing in someone to come and talk, and something struck me from there. You know, there are sometimes we have opportunities to go to events, meet important people, and we could actually invite this in our schools where people will meet, we can have exchange with them, exchange numbers and say, sir, I'd like you to speak with my student on social thing. You don't need to bring them and pay them the cost of their transportation to come down. Make a Zoom call for 30 minutes, and these children will be glad. If, for example, you had an opportunity to meet a star, like a football star in Nigeria who is very important, and you now want them to meet with the children, they'll be so glad if that person.
Sorry. The evaluation I was talking about is the evaluation of the tools that they will use to carry out PBL. I'm not talking about the final evaluation of the project. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, it's noted. Okay, so that's what I wanted to add too. So when you bring them to make a Zoom call and this person talks to the children, they'll be inspired to do more. Because you have just brought someone they see close to them, the person is able to interact with them and speak with them through Zoom and all that. They'll do more out of that. They'll need to bring out their creativity and all that. That's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I completely agree, right? And Osime talking to some students in Ilorin about staying true to their dreams, or talking to them about exercise, if it's PHE, health education, and all of that. They go go a long way, even maybe much more than that 2 weeks plan that you have in your scheme, right? They will most likely remember some of the things they said longer than maybe the 2 weeks thing. And what I've seen that happens a lot is teachers don't take advantage of the community within, right? Everyone, when it comes to, let's invite someone, everyone is I don't know, somehow we are making the problem more complex than it really is. Just like you said, it can just be a simple conversation from people you meet out there, right? And a 20 minutes, 30 minutes talk, particularly if these are, what's the name? I don't think any one of them will shy away from it, right? We concluded the last meeting the other day when Mrs. was telling us that you'll be amazed at the companies that are even looking for people to do this CSR for, right? There are people that want to be identified with, oh, I gave a speech at a school for a public school, right? There are people that are looking for those opportunities, right? You may think they are not, but really they are. All it takes really is just, asking, right? How did we get the person to help us go to IDP camps? It was from a teacher of ours, right? It was just a simple conversation. And then the person went there and did the video, and we met some people from the IDP camps right from Lagos. We didn't have to take everyone there, right? And that for them, right, goes farther than anything we could have shown them, other pictures, right? You can almost beat your chest that how many students do you have in Nigeria who have seen or interacted with people in the IDP camps? That's in Lagos now. Almost none of them have, right? If they know at all, they only know that there may be such a thing as IDP camps, or they have seen clips in maybe channels, news or something, but they've never had an interaction with them to see, okay, how is life there? How do they do what they do? How do they cope and all of that? And things like that. Those are, long-lasting experience that you can give to them. Thank you so much, sir. Your contribution, very, very, very much appreciated. Okay, so that's assuming that Nigerian celebrities are passionate about giving back to children like their foreign counterpart, right? You never know. When you try, you'll be amazed that you find some of them that are actually passionate. It doesn't mean that every person you meet is just going to welcome you with open arms. Expect to meet some people that would just either postpone you or just turn you down outrightly. But it's all part of the experience. Really, you tell your students really to plan, prepare to fail. Right, you are going on this project. Right, I don't know the outcome. You don't know the outcome. Right, so expect that we may hit rock bottom at some point, right? We may have to think through again, but that's what life is about. That's the experience that you are trying to also teach to them, right? You don't just if you know something about if you know the growth mindset, right? You should learn to embrace failures, right? Embrace them, because it's only telling you that you need to go about it another way, right? They ask, was it Thomas Edison now, right? So all the times you were failing, right? How was the experience? Why didn't you stop? And then he was wondering that, well, I wasn't failing. I didn't fail once, right? That's what he said, right? I didn't fail once. I only learned ways that it cannot be done, right? I only learned another way. Each time I'm only learning that, oh, I can't do it this way. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do it this way, right? But he didn't consider any one of them as failure. Let's take the final one from Taiwo Justina. Justina, yeah, that's it. Mrs. or Miss Taiwo Justina. Can you please your mic. And let's hear you if you are still here with us. Okay, I don't think she's still here with us. So let me ask that we call it a day here, right? What I would plan to do now, I haven't had this conversation with the admin yet, but I'll see if the groups can be opened, right? If the groups can be opened, we'll see so that peradventure some people who want to, of course, when we meet physically, there'll still be that room, that opportunity to network, meet with people, meet with teachers. We'll make it a compulsory part session of that day, right? Get up, leave your seat, go and meet 5 people, right? But you'll find out more about that. But if there are people who want to collaborate, who have issues that they want to share, right? Get suggestions from people who maybe have gone through that same thing, and what have you. Our only concern is, over, flooding the rooms with too many messages such that people can no longer track the,
Hello?
notifications. All right. Yes,
Hello,
ma'am.
are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
I want to ask, how can PBL can be carried out in economics on some topics like maybe basic tools for economic analysis, or like maybe market structure, population or productions?
Okay, as much as I would love to share my insight on that, right? Like I said, I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to
Economics.
economics, but are you on the WhatsApp or Telegram group?
I'm on WhatsApp.
On the WhatsApp group, ma?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, maybe I'll even do this across. Maybe it will be useful to some other people on the other groups who also teach economics. What you can help me out with now is, can you go over, or what class do you teach?
I teach SS1 to 3.
SS1 to 3, economics, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I would have to look through the topics, and I just need to get an overview of what those topics, cover, what they teach.
Okay.
Maybe if I can get some of the lesson objectives.
And get across to me on WhatsApp.
Yes, I'll do that, ma.
All right.
So I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to economics, but
I
if
just want to have the idea of the way I can apply all what you have been teaching us to my own area of discipline.
All right, thank you. I will definitely do that. So once I do that, I will share it across all groups, because there may be some people in economics that are, or maybe on the Telegram group and all of that, so that everyone can just read through.
Benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Hello,
ma'am.
sir.
Yes, please,
Good
ma'am. Please
evening.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually lost connection, and not too long I came in. I'm an English teacher, and I also like to know how I can apply this to my field.
Yours is very, very easy, right? Yours is very, very easy. Almost for almost every PBL subject, except the teacher just deliberately doesn't want to carry you along, or you can be carried along for every PBL subject, right? Remember that communication is always a skill that they're always looking at for. And sometimes you do things related to writing, right? Whether they are writing reports, factual writing, and descriptive writing, and all of those, right? So what I share with some language teachers is, yes, there are texts that your students may be required to read, maybe literature text and all of those. But as much as you can, right, find a way to instead of giving them those abstract compositions or those abstract texts that they may not be able to relate with, right? Find a way to relate it to a subject or a topic. Let it be a text on a subject or a topic that they are doing. Thankfully, even the new, English textbooks that they are making now, they are beginning to, go in that light. So you find composition that are on maybe a science topic, on maybe aeroplane flight or shipwrecks and things like that, right? But you can do more more with it, right? If you want to go out by yourself, to host a PBL project, right? You maybe want to collaborate with maybe the art teacher. I don't know, you may not have, what's the name now? You may have visual arts, or you may not have performing arts, right? It's difficult to find performing arts in schools, except if they are doing it as a club, right? But if you do have a performing arts teacher, you may want to work closely with that performing arts teacher, right? All of those literature things that they do, right? Aside what I've seen, the best I've seen teachers do is, they give them the books. This one in class will read this, and that one will read that, and then that's all, right? It's good, right? I'm not talking down on that, but it can be a whole lot bigger, right? There are schools that have gone full-fledged and have reenacted Morimi. They've done Sounds of Time. There are many things, right? I've seen Prince of Egypt, right, being played out, right, even at the primary, elementary session, not even secondary school session. So take out those literature, what's the name, and let them host a concert, a school concert, right? It is costly, but definitely there are ways that you can, work around it. If you don't want to go all school concert because of the cost and all of that, let them do these things, maybe doing the assembly, right? Begging the school admin for just one assembly that will span maybe longer than usual would be too difficult, right? If you are sure about the project you want to get them into. Now, everything I've said now is just based on maybe the performing arts and the literature aspect. So there are all of those ways that truly that you can consider for English, right? Maybe reporting too, you can do reporting extensively, right? You can do reporting extensively. Yeah, that's interviews. If you have a blog where they are doing maybe factual writing and all of that, right? Instead of picking abstract factual writing, right? Why not plan a PBL around going to, interview or have a discussion with some government agencies, right? If it's not a government agency, if you have parents who have businesses where they can visit, even if it's the market, let them go to that market woman, let them sit down around the market woman and let us share experiences. Let them write out all of those things, right? Do a summary of it, do their presentation and all of that. That gives them a better, talk shows, debates, right? Talk shows, debate, and things like that. That can also be of help.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, ma. Adapted to any field. Yeah, be open-minded and do further research. Yes, please, ma. Please go ahead.
Good evening.
Yes.
According to the lecture given yesterday, physical class, it was explained, somebody said, talk about economics, that how can she have a project-based lesson for economics? We were told yesterday that we can use our WhatsApp, AI Meta in our WhatsApp. We can type the topic that we actually want to do the project on. Then we'll now list, anything that want to ask, we can ask on that AI Meta. We can just say, okay, I want to talk about this particular topic. What are the resources needed? Then we can even type the location to make the work easier for us. Like we can just say, okay, I'm talking, maybe I want the student to carry out this project in learning. What are the resources that are available in learning to carry out this project-based learning for this particular topic? That by so doing, like our own economics now, she can just type the topic, then the project that she wants to do, like you actually said that we can just write the big idea. That is the project title. Then what are the material that will be needed? What are the driving questions? All these things that we can use Meta. And she also mentioned a particular app, maybe ChatGPT also. I can't get that one correctly. But when you collaborate with them, those that actually had the lecture yesterday, they will be able to say more about it. So by so doing, economics will be made easier for the
That's actually very apt. And I believe that I think everyone heard right. That's one of the easiest way you can go about it, right? AI is it's a very useful tool, right? You can just type in all of those prompts and to just keep generating and generating and generating then for you. Let me sound a disclaimer. Please also subject whatever AI is generating for you. Maybe just read through, proofread, right? Don't just garbage in, garbage out, right? And that's because AI sometimes are also subject to bias, right? Sometimes they can give you biased responses. So you need to just quickly proofread to be honest. But whether you are proofreading or not, whether you are proofreading, it still cuts down, dramatically the time you will have spent if you hadn't, used AI. So it's a very useful tool for every teacher. Yes, bias and hallucinations, exactly. All right. So thank you everyone for joining today's section. And the next time we'll be meeting, physically, right? It will be a physical meeting. It will be a lengthy one. Every other instruction or information will be communicated because we will need some of us to come up with our PBL plan, right? We're going to see it, go through it, and then pick out maybe one or two people to come present to us what they've done and what have you. So please just stay glued to the WhatsApp, Telegram channel, whichever channel you are on, and that information would come up. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful privilege anchoring these sessions. Thank you for joining. We don't take your time for granted at all, right? I know that there's still a bit much more hands-on practice that people need. And just before the physical meeting, I'll do well to just churn out as much as I can so that that physical meeting becomes seamless. In that physical meeting, we're going to balance everything up, right? In that final physical meeting, we'll then come back and that's what we'll get to the part of, we'll talk about things, some things that include the evaluation and all of this. And some of the things you should expect when running PBL, some of the challenges you may run into, how to overcome them and all of that. And then we'll call it a program at that junction. Remember, if you have not signed the attendance, please make sure you do so. If you didn't do the attendance on the first and second day, please reach out to the admin, right? They will know how best to attend to that. Just go to your WhatsApp, what's the name, information, and reach out to any of the admins, and then that will be sorted for you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please feel free to leave the meeting at any point. And do have a wonderful night's rest and a wonderful weekend ahead.
Hello, sir.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes. Check the chat section. I put something there. Item 7.
Okay. I'm trying to read through it now. Item 7, sir. Okay, don't worry. We'll sort that. If you leave your email, we can find a way to mail it, sir. Thank you so
That's okay. That's okay.
Item 7. We'll find a way to mail it to everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.